That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month to month basis. It's time to crack open our movie memoirs. All right, folks, we got a lot to get to. I put up a poll asking what of the headlining films people were most excited for us to talk about. Dragon, this might be the first time this has happened in a poll. Joker 2, just unanimous, no votes for anything else. So I find that funny. We'll get to Joker 2. I'm gonna put a warning up here up front because we are known for our superhero coverage, but Dragon, there's some things for you and I where it's like even we don't want to touch them, and frankly the Sony Spider-Verse is one of them at this point. So no Venom. I literally almost called it let there be carnage. No Venom, The Last Dance, whatever the hell it's called. We're not reviewing that today. We will review it when it inevitably drops on Netflix in like a month. So with that out of the way, let's get into things with the news. I'm going to throw it over to you for this first one, Dragon, because it's not really my area of expertise. Tell us about John Amos.
Well, sorry, just give me one. Yeah, sorry, John Amos. Yes, John Amos, a stellar actor. Was on Good Times. Was, I believe, James Evans on Good Times. Just storied actor. I know him best for Coming to America as Mr. McDowell. I mean, you remember Mr. McDowell, don't you?
I watched Coming to America like once or twice. And honestly, it didn't really stick with me. Not gonna lie. Eddie Murphy comedies from the 80s are not my forte. You should know this by now.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just stating the truth.
And also, he was the surprise villain in Die Hard 2. That was like the other claim to fame that John Amos had. But the point being, everyone knew him, for Good Times.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. The man did just kind of exude just kind of like a legitimacy and just kind of a really salt of the earth kind of thing there. I mean, I think people also really knew him from, like, I guess historically through the tomes of television, was he was the adult Kunta Kinte from Roots.
Oh yeah, of course, from Roots.
So
yeah.
not LeVar Burton, no, the other version of Kunta Kinte, which was like kind of the big thing with Roots, is that you got to play with time and just kind of get to kind of fast forward in certain segments of the miniseries.
I mean, as we've established through some running jokes recently, Dragon, time is but a construct.
Sure. Anyway, the point being, John Amos, a legend, and it is kind of a shame to see him go. So, Amos will be indeed missed. And again, he's very much, kind of a pillar of not just early television, but also just kind of like. Here's the thing, Coming to America, I'm going to say this. So in the original, he had this really great scene. We mentioned, sadly, again, like last month, we lose James Earl Jones, who's also from Coming to America.
Yeah,
Losing John Amos. And I bring it up because one of my favorite scenes involved the two of them. Where James Earl Jones plays the king, basically out of his element, and he's essentially insulting John Amos's character's daughter. He's insulting Lisa, and just to show you, because the whole gag's like he's an opportunist. He's trying to make a buck. But the moment this guy is insulting his daughter and like saying, "Well, we'll pay for this essentially for my son going on a flight fancy for your daughter who's clearly lower status, etc., etc." The James Earl Jones regalness. And then John Amos, he steps up, man. He calls him out and says, "I'll break my foot off. I'll break my foot off in there." He's threatening violence against the king of Zamunda, and it's I don't know. It's just this really great moment in the movie in which he really just there's a lot of legitimacy there, and he just like this guy's gonna add a little bit of depth there. He's going to stand up for his daughter despite basically being Mr. Krabs up to this point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we lost a big one. And Dragon, this stung especially because we lost this guy literally like mere days after recording the memoirs for September. So we were like, oh my God, now we're going to have to wait a whole month to honor him. The great Ken Page, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is truly a loss. Of course, best known as Oogie Boogie, obviously, first and foremost. And Dragon, I got to say, do you know about the Oogie Boogie Bash that they do at California Adventure?
A little bit.
They go all out with it, and Oogie Boogie is definitely like the spokesman for that event. And I gotta say, man, it kind of warms my heart that in the last years of Ken Page's life, I'm sure that he knew just how much of an impact his character had. Specifically because Oogie Boogie Bash is like legitimately one of the most infamously hard Disney events there's ever been to get into. Like the tickets for that thing, Dragon, they sell out like instantly, like every year. It's like you got to be online at like 6 a.m. and you're lucky if you get the tickets. Like, so I don't know. I'd like to think that that on some level he knew how popular it was and that he was humbled by how big of an influence his character had. Some other credits I want to mention from him, Dragon. Did you know he was in the original version of Cats?
Yes, I did hear that.
He was Old Deuteronomy in the original Cats, the role that Judi Dench would come to inherit. And then also, Dragon, are you aware of his other big kind of animated contribution?
Absolutely.
Of course, of course. Would you like to tell him what it is?
Yes, so of course, Ken Page, beloved as Oogie Boogie, and he really did love that role. By the way, he always came back to do the, to portray the character.
Every time he'd pop up in Kingdom Hearts, it'd be him. And with Kingdom Hearts, a lot of people were not reprising their original roles.
But we had him as the character's name is King Gator from All Dogs Go to Heaven. But I think we all most commonly know this character. We think of this character as the big-lipped alligator moment from All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, it was basically this completely random aside in All Dogs Go to Heaven where Charlie seemingly is going to be, again, the movie completely derails for a moment where, Anne-Marie and Charlie have they've descended into kind of the sewer kind of layer of this giant musical alligator, very flamboyant musical alligator. It's seemingly going to eat them.
You know what? I'm gonna have a pushback to the whole big-lipped alligator thing. All right, really quick.
Well, I'm just saying that's how they associate. I'm not.
No, I know, but like I feel like over the years, people have made these points, and I think they're relevant. The scene is not as plot insignificant as you might think because going down into the sewers is what causes Anne-Marie to get sick, and that kind of puts the plot of the third act into motion.
And
B, they set up the alligator to come back in the climax to help Charlie. So, set up and payoff. So
also, I believe potentially kills, it's a little vague, but it's implied that he kills Carface.
I mean, Carface is in frickin' heaven at the start of the sequel. So
that's the thing, though. Is that because the alligator ate him, or is that because of something?
No, I'm pretty sure it's because of the gator. Well, yeah, I love the big-lipped alligator. I think that he's honestly, like, for his movie, he's almost just as memorable as Oogie Boogie is to Nightmare Before Christmas. He's just kind of like this enigmatic presence that, like, pops up about 2/3 of the way through the movie and just kind of hijacks it.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say this, with Ken Page, I was kicking myself for this. I've been in the same room as Ken Page.
Have you really?
Yeah, I didn't see him though, because I had to make certain calls, and it was like at the MonsterCon, and Ken Page was there. It wasn't this year, but I don't know if he was there this year. He canceled this year, maybe because of declining health. That I don't know. But he was. I was tempted to see him. I ended up seeing the voice of Jack Skellington. I saw Chris Sarandon, but it was it's. I always meant to do it, so I did feel really bad just, when Ken Page passed away. Because, again, he will always... Here's the thing. He will be immortalized in that performance. play, and he brought his musical background to that character, to Oogie Boogie, and he had this standout scene in that film as well as, I mean, I no one ever talks about it as much, but I love the climax between Jack and Oogie Boogie. Every time everyone
Well,
thinks
I
of
do
Oogie
too.
Boogie,
I do too.
because everyone's always thinking of like the song. Don't get me wrong, the song's amazing. It's
The part where Jack has to like walk on the tips of the swords from the playing cards, that always stuck out to me as like super kinetic when I was a
For
kid.
me, my favorite part of that is when Jack is like he's right after that he's walking up the thing, and then like just as he's stepping upwards, and we have like the slot machine, kind of like gun-toting cowboys like coming right at him.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he's stepping on the guns, and I
Yeah.
think with the knives, he's like slipping past.
Yeah,
them.
that's the thing. He does like the acrobatic kind of like
right.
He's kind of moving like.
No, I'm with you. I love the visual of him like just like as the guns are firing, he's just like trying to step on them.
Yeah, he has like the spider move where he's like stepping on the. Anyway, so honestly, but it always boils down to like the last moments with him and Oogie Boogie is like when he says like, "How dare you treat my friends so shamefully?"
I love that. I feel like that line like sums up Jack Skellington in a nutshell.
Exactly. He's the gentleman skeleton, and it's just this. Just my bugs.
God, childhood trauma right there. Man.
Just the bravado and just the theatricality he brought to that character, and it's just something kind of nice that the fact that he didn't just write off as like, oh man, people always keep talking to me about that character. It's like, he got it. He got why that character was so memorable. It was a great performance.
Absolutely. All right, next up we've got another great one, Dragon. This one also hurts.
Yeah,
Terry Garr, man.
Boy, Terry Garr.
First and foremost, for our purposes, we got Mrs. McGinnis from Batman Beyond, which Dragon, she didn't have a lot of screen time in that show, but I got to tell you, man, every time that I had a real soft spot for both of the McGinnis family members, for both the mom and for I'm blanking on the name. Why am I blanking on the name of the kid? Help me out.
Matt?
Yeah, Matt. I wanted to say Matt, but I knew that wasn't right. Yeah.
No.
And I think that she really just brought like kind of like a warm motherly energy to her role. But then beyond that, of course, some truly iconic stuff. Obviously, probably the big one for our purposes is Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Yes, of course.
But yes, she is. Three roles I think people automatically identify with. Besides, for our purposes, Mary McGinnis. We have Ooooh from we have Inga from Young Frankenstein.
Right.
We have the wife from Close Encounters, and we have we have the wife from Mr. Mom.
Yeah. No, and the wife from Close Encounters, honestly, that's the one we're looking her up today. I was like, that was her? Oh my God.
We had a whole Spielberg month on this. Really? You'd recognize that was her?
Dragon, my memory is Swiss cheese, this.
Oh, come on.
No, but honestly, like I love that character in Close Encounters because I feel like that character is kind of like equal parts like the most sympathetic character and also the most unhinged character, but she's unhinged for a really good reason. Like, yeah, she really carries a lot of the emotional weight of that movie, I think.
Well, just those three roles, three very different roles. You have the very over-the-top comedic role with Inga. You got the wife from Close Encounters who's very much she's on the fringes of a marriage that's imploding upon itself. And then you have the working mom in Mr. Mom.
Indeed.
Also Tootsie. A lot of people forget she's in Tootsie.
Did I ever tell you that there's a Mr. Mom's Cafe that's right next door to my house?
What do you mean a Mr. Mom's Cafe?
I'm saying it's a restaurant. As far as I know, it's not associated with the movie at all, but it's literally just called Mr. Mom's Cafe.
Mr. Mom's Cafe.
I'm not kidding you.
Well, I think everyone knows who our non-sponsor is today.
You remember that racing movie that I told you about like a couple years ago that was set in Petaluma?
Yeah.
Yeah, they specifically have breakfast at Mr. Mom's Cafe in that movie. Like they name it like Like, like they name drop it in that movie. Anyways.
Anyway, so just wonderful actress. Again, if I could pick only one role, as much as I love her as Mary McGinnis and the understated role that is, I mean, Inga from Young Frankenstein. She
That's
is.
the iconic one, yeah.
I mean, just the fact that she is. Mel Brooks had some of the funniest women ever in the comedy world in that movie, and just the fact that a lot of people would like underwrite Terry Garr, and that like Terry Garr is. I mean, I've said this before. She's very much kind of that. From the Just Giggle It crowd, Piper Henson very much is kind of like a Terry Garr kind of style of comedy.
I can see that for sure. Yeah,
you can have someone who, again, like the idea in the comedy world back in the day was that if someone was a knockout, they can't be funny. Then again, if you have someone like Ruth Buzzy, she can be hilarious.
Right.
That's the thing where she disproved that, where she can be hysterical and have like some of the best lines in young Frankenstein, and she came up with the whole Zabukis, like just hammering on the the accent there, But yeah, and also, I mean, she dealt with a lot in her personal life too. She dealt with MS, which ultimately got her in the end. So
yeah.
But again, here's the thing: she 20 years. She battled it for 20 years. She gave it a good fight there.
All right. So, folks, we go from the death of beloved actors to the death of Hollywood Dragon.
Yes, the future death of beloved actors, or the reveling in, or technology reveling in it.
I truly feel like this month has genuinely some of the absolute worst, like, non-death related news that we've ever covered.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. Jesus Christ. So Disney, they're all on board the AI train. I mean, they don't care about Facebook being flooded with, like, fake movie posters for sequels that are never going to happen. No, that's not a concern at all. Let's not pay the animators. I'm gonna get really animated with this, Dragon. This is fucking ridiculous.
So,
as far as I'm concerned, Dragon, Disney is just it's the world's longest slow infested self-inflicting wound, man. They've got a self-inflicted wound, and it is just fucking festering and getting infected, and there's green slime coming out of it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the walls are oozing green. The walls of its AI brain.
I mean, Dragon, at this point, we really do have to seriously consider moving away from the Imagineer branding, man. It's bad.
All right, so here's the thing. It really feels like they haven't learned anything. We're going to lean heavier into the AI. I mean, if Secret Invasion wasn't any indicator, it's just like we have an opening that's done in AI and no one liked it unanimously.
Good, let's do that. More of that.
So basically, it sounds like ultimately the way it reads to me, it's two things we got to bring up here. So on one hand, it really reads to me that basically I think the official statement is like, well, the long and short of it is we're going to incorporate AI into the VFX, which is a terrible idea. One, given the struggles they're already having with VFX because of how they're whipping the animators, but like taking that out of the equation, it's like, hey, instead of like having these guys who are like on no sleep, we're gonna have the computer do, and what that's gonna lead to? More six-fingered people and everything blending into each other. Which even the Thunderbolts asterisk poster has has like all the has like six-fingered characters and like repeated stuff on it. Just that's a thing. Or there's always that uncanny. It's not even like an uncanny valley in terms of like like the human eye, but it's like no, it's like uncanny in terms of if you look really closely, things are off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a terrible idea because if we're struggling with the effects now, we have like a computer system that again is going to have like human, like I can't say human error, but it's going to have like like glitches and everything in it. I mean, what's the point? And plus, it's going to tick everyone off because it's going to be putting people out of work for just more mistakes. That doesn't behoove anyone. Why do this?
Yeah, it's pretty freaking ridiculous.
Here's what's funny about it, though, and you're gonna love this. I don't know if I assume you've heard about this, but Robert Downey Jr. had a very awesome, pointed kind of view on the AI thing.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it was really cool, and I love the irony being of all the people to have this opinion, it would be the guy who created Ultron.
Right.
He basically said anyone who uses AI to recreate is like if Disney recreates the his likeness in movies using AI or et cetera with this path. In response to this announcement, he said he's gonna use his vast Avengers money to sue them.
I mean, amen to that. Yeah.
So basically, he's trying to set the precedent in Hollywood that anyone who uses their likeness via AI, without their permission, they're going to get sued. Which hopefully
Yeah,
will.
I mean, it's like, look at all the. I mean, we've run into all these ridiculous situations. Like Tom Hanks is running around. I don't think this is AI, but Tom Hanks is running around it's like, hey guys, look, I'm a college kid. I'm de-aged in that new Robert Zemeckis movie.
Well, that's different though. That's not.
No,
AI.
I know, but it's all the same sort of icky sort of category though, Dragon. I don't like any of it.
Well, come on, that was. I heard that was actually done really, really well. I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, have you heard the reviews?
No, but I heard one.
You heard the reviews of that movie,
I've heard one good review. That's why I'm saying this is surprising to me. You're telling me this now.
I am telling you that the reviews of the movie, not great, dude. Not great.
I'm saying I heard one of our boys get a really good review.
What?
One of our boys gave it a good review.
Who gave it a good review?
Jeremy Johns.
That guy is. I don't even know. Whatever.
That's why I'm surprised by this. He's usually on the level.
I know. You're right. He usually is. I don't know. By and large, though. Anyways, let's not derail it.
Okay. The point being, again, just less the de-aging side of things, more just the AI side of things. Yes, it's a problem.
Yeah. All right. Next up. Oh my God. Okay. So, Dragon.
Never could a line from a Deadpool movie be any more relevant than this next one.
Right. At this point, I'm almost convinced they put that line in there specifically because they knew.
I'd like to think so. They're really on, like Ryan Reynolds and company, and Reese and Wernick and everyone. They're usually on the ball with this kind of like.
There's a reason we didn't see She-Hulk in that movie.
Well, I don't think that's the reason why, but
Well, I mean, they're on the ball, and they know that people don't like She-Hulk, so.
True. Oh, what's funny though? Real quick, they did like a Lego special recently, and they had like She-Hulk, and Deadpool kind of going at it. It's really funny.
Okay, Dragon. Yeah, I do hate to throw Jeremy Johns under the bus a little bit, but Kokias actually does make a good point here. He did give Matt Walsh's recent film a good review. And Matt Walsh, Dragon, that dude is just right-wing propaganda, essentially. He makes right-wing propaganda in the form of documentaries. So, yeah, the fact that Jeremy Johns would even consider reviewing that guy's movie in the first place, let alone giving it a positive review, a little problematic.
I mean, TIki, it's getting a little political. It's the guy who's going to talk about a movie.
Gee, I wonder why I'm getting political. What could possibly be happening?
Okay, again.
Anyways.
I'm not saying, just to say, we're going to throw a guy's credibility out the window just because he said, this guy made a decent movie. I don't think that's really,
Okay, Dragon, it's basically, I'm just saying, though, the guy, Matt Walsh, he's basically, like 2 steps up from legitimacy from, a Ben Shapiro, all right?
All right.
Anyways,
Anyway. So, so the new Blade movie that we've all been just so eager to see is off the schedule completely now.
I honestly think this might be for the best at this point.
I mean, I think it's just sad they just can't. On one hand, I understand there's a lot of it shouldn't be this hard, but I understand there's a lot of pressure because of what Blade was like the original comic book movie. Essentially, Blade was like the original, in the resurgence of on the Marvel side of things. It was like the first good Marvel comic book movie they had. And I can understand the pressure they're putting on themselves to get it just right, but I think maybe it's gotten to the point where they put too much pressure on themselves, and they're agonizing over it so much, and that's unclear how much of that's just they're trying to get it right ad nauseum versus hey. We're having all these creative things that Marvel directors have kind of had bumping up against the way Marvel's been planning things out to the end of time. It's unclear, but all we do know is that it's now it's kind of a good thing we didn't see Mahershala Ali at the end of the end of a term.
Oh yeah, right.
Because man, we really had no end game for that. What's interesting, though, and we'll get to this, if the rumors are to be believed, well, I mean, we kind of saw him, but he's really covered up. Blade might be appearing in What If.
Oh, that'd be wild.
So I think we might actually have seen him in the footage later on. So that's what I'm saying. Like, he's actually kind of might have been spotted even, but again, his face is covered up, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Right.
But it's just ridiculous that we really have. It's the fact that it's like it keeps getting delayed and delayed to the point where it's now off the schedule, and he might be in Marvel's. Sorry, not What If. Marvel Zombies. I didn't mean What If. It's just again, just that.
Yeah.
There's that Wesley Snipes bit in Deadpool Wolverine is now even more relevant. There's only been one Blade ever.
Right.
It does feel like if it's getting pushed off the schedule, I think it's only like one more. I think it's one more rescheduling away from just being canned completely. What do you think?
Honestly, at this point, I'm kind of to the point where I just legitimately think now I'd be surprised if it actually materialized.
You know what I've heard the plan is behind the scenes right now?
What?
I've heard they're going to do like I think Midnight Suns, because I know it's the game. I forget if there's an actual kind of lineup in the comics. I think there is later. I think they're basically trying to do a Midnight Suns movie, which essentially is the horror characters on a team together. That might be their way of doing Blade, which it feels like right now that's kind of the only avenue they're going to really ultimately.
I mean, honestly, like we'll get to Agatha all along, but like I quite like that show, and I'd like to see Disney do another kind of more horror-centric show, so that might be a good avenue.
I mean, honestly, for me, when Blade was announced, I initially thought it was going to be as a series, so they wouldn't have to be in the shadow of the movie, which I think probably would have been for the best. Here's the thing, if they can get their act together on the TV side of things and get Mahershala Ali, of all people, that would be good for them.
Right.
We know Mahershala Ali is really good on TV.
We do. We do.
We've seen this many times. He's got True Detective. He's got Luke Cage. The man can act in any screen of any size.
All right. Kogias says he wants to see Blade fight Morbius, but Morbius should be recast first. Honestly, I would be down to have as much of a fucking joke as Morbius is. I do think the idea of like a vampire superhero in the MCU is kind of cool. I would be down for like a recast Morbius. Certainly don't bring back Jared Leto. Absolutely not. But yeah, I'd be down for that. Anyway,
the only thing that would have saved that Morbius movie is actually Blade were secretly revealed to be the antagonist to him in that movie. That would have been fantastic.
All right, Dragon. So Good Omens Season 3 trimmed to a 90-minute episode. Not only does this suck for people who are fans of the series, but Dragon, you've heard about what's going on.
Yeah, I have. I heard about it before this. But here's the thing: before this news came down, I mean, I knew things were going on there, but no one knew how it was going to affect all the projects.
Well, now we know.
The real question is how is this going to affect Sandman Season 2? That's the real question.
Oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
Because I mean, that's essentially, from what I understand, that's in the can. I know they were shooting it I forget if they were shooting it last year at the top of the the teaser.
Like without getting into any detail, folks, we don't need to make it like a freaking TMZ thing. But long and short of it is Neil Gaiman. He's pretty canceled these days.
He's under, to put it bluntly, he's under scrutiny right now.
He's pretty canceled.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the thing. So I was really excited. Of course, I love Good Omens, and I was really looking forward to Season 3 because a lot of people are wondering. Here's the thing. Season 3 is like a miracle it got approved already because initially it was like, it might not have. We had all the strikes and everything going on. It was like maybe it was going to be a comic or something in place of it. And they said, no, we're actually going to do the season. This is great news. Now all this happens, and now it seems to be trimmed to a 90-minute finale versus an entire Season 3. And mind you, entire Season 3 is like 6 episodes, so it's not exactly a crazy, kind of like, it's not exactly it's not a nail in the coffin, but it does give me like flashbacks to the House of Cards finale, which does make me very nervous. So that's my big concern. Because House of Cards, they teed up like a really great final season, and stuff happened, and then we got what we got, and it was terrible. And I'm just hoping here. I mean, here's the silver lining. Okay, Good Omens is at its best when we just focus on Aziraphale and Crowley.
Sure.
So with a targeted focus in the story, like if we cut out all like the side plots, which again, season 2 was doing essentially. So again, 2 was improving in that regard. It does make me think, I mean, maybe it could help. Maybe it could help just give us purely the good stuff from Good Omens. Which,
Like, basically, if all we're after is a satisfying ending.
Which essentially seems to be the impetus, which now they have like a fire lit on it. Okay, we really have to make this count. So hopefully it'll go in that direction. But again, Neil Gaiman will not be involved. I don't know, creatively, in season 1 is the book. So you want Neil Gaiman involved in the season 1 with what we got. Going forward, though, which again, 2 was kind of an improvement there. We were veering off the source material. We had
That's what makes me worried for Sandman, though, because that is like all him. That is his baby.
That's true. So we're gonna have to see how things pan out there. They have not said a word about Sandman right now in the midst of all this, which is interesting to me. But we'll see what happens. All we know is with Sandman, the big question: are they gonna do the play, and will the play be affected by this?
Oh, the Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes, well, the Midsummer. Yeah, that's the chapter of Sandman we got to see.
I honestly, Dragon. Honestly, if they do kind of a similar thing to what they're doing here and just give us that, and that's all we get as Sandman, I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't be stoked about it, but I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
All right. Kokias, honestly, I hate to say this, but I kind of agree with you. Like Dragon said, I like the stuff with our leads in Good Omens season 1, and I did read the book in high school. But a lot of the other stuff in season 1 was a little too overly ambitious for my taste.
And again, I want to emphasize, season 2 focused more on them, so 2 was kind of an improvement in that regard. They focused a lot more on the element that worked best in season 1. So
that's what you were saying, yeah.
So I do recommend people check out 2, even if they only liked half of Good Omens season 1.
I need to check it out eventually.
Yeah.
All right, next up. Okay, folks, we only got one terrible piece of news and then a baffling piece of news, and then we're out of the woods on the bad stuff. All right, so let's get to the terrible. Dragon, our boy Zaslav, our boy in like the our shameful like college dropout of a child.
Yeah, he's it's the Zaz that is not Jane Lynch.
Right. Oh God. Yeah, he made a questionable decision.
Him? No, get out of here. TIki, you're insane. Zaslav doesn't make questionable decisions. He makes financially motivated decisions.
Oh, man.
Okay, there's a distinction, good sir. He's thinking about the shareholders. He would never betray the shareholders. How dare you besmirch the name Zaslav and the non-intimidating name that is. I mean, that guy's cuddly as a bunny. That's Zaslav. Not Bugs Bunny.
All right. Just tell him what he did now, Dragon. Just tell him what he did now.
Okay, so Clint Eastwood, legendary filmmaker, actor, the original cowboy himself.
Might I add, one of the legendary directors specifically for Warner Brothers?
Mm-hmm. So Clint Eastwood, he's coming out with a movie that was reportedly, he's getting up there too. Reportedly, whether he likes it or not, his final film, Juror Number 2, a lot of buzz around it, has a great cast in it. We have J.K. Simmons, we have Nick Holt, we have a litany of good people in it. Mm-hmm. Great premise. People are stoked about it. So what did they announce? Like the moment we get a trailer out for Juror Number 2?
Literally, I believe this was mere days before the release too.
Mm-hmm. The news is we're going to limit the wide release to 50 theaters in the entire US of A.
Just genius.
So basically, hey, Clint Eastwood's last movie that everyone's going to want to see, we're going to make it available only to probably 500 people.
He's a maverick. All right.
So as you can tell, folks, this is stupid. So, okay.
Yeah, Colby says he's seen that one on Wednesday. Yeah, he's doing Peregrine. He's doing a double feature of that and Anora, which is another movie that is Dragon. Anora is it's the new Sean Baker movie, the guy who did the Florida Project.
Oh,
yeah, and it is getting all the hype. From what I've been hearing, it is the movie to beat come Oscar season. And it is fucking nowhere.
Now, here's the real question. What theme park will it be running to at the end of Adora?
Well, considering it's about a sex worker, I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe like maybe I don't have
Knott's Berry Farm.
Sure, Knott's Berry Farm. Sure, let's say that. Let's say
there
that.
You go.
Yeah.
It's the sex worker paradise, Knott's Berry Farm.
I mean, Code Geass mentions his Eastwood's previous film flopped. Yeah, but like Eastwood
That's no reason like to list. This is the last movie.
He's the kind of director though where it's like he'll come out with some movies that it's like, yeah, you just kind of have a feeling like these are, you know, not like Eastwood on his A game, right? But then he'll also come out with stuff that is on his A game. Like,
by the way, Cry Macho is not a bad movie, it's just kind of a stupid title.
That is a stupid title. It is.
Well, you know why it's called Cry Macho. You saw Cry Macho, right?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I know you're a film snob. You would hate it, but it's the basically Macho is the name of a chicken. Well, not a chicken, of a rooster.
Oh man,
I think it's a rooster. It's a rooster or a chicken. I think it's a rooster. That's the thing. So it's
Peregrine also makes a point that they're intentionally not releasing the box office for German.
Again, shady as all get out too.
Yep.
Just like you don't want the box office show because you've limited it to 50 theaters. That's why you moron.
Again, these fucking studios and self-inflicted wounds.
But again, it's like Zaslav. He's just like pulled, but he's like every time he pulls, he's looking down at his feet. Really, just a little skeet shooting.
Oh my god!
It's like, come on, like Zaslav. He's the reason we've had Looney Tunes and Batman not on Warner Brothers related media.
He's the reason why Infinity Train is more or less lost media.
Yes. So that's lost. Batman's on Amazon now, and the Looney Tunes. Who the heck knows?
Yep. All right.
Sad. Very sad. It's all sad. One could say I'm going to turn to Norma Bates. So sad.
All right. So, Dragon, this next one isn't really sad. It's just, what the fuck are they doing? Okay, so Dragon, do you remember when Baby Geniuses came out and the big marketing pull for that movie was it's live action Rugrats?
Do I?
Well, boy, is the snake eating its own tail. Because that's essentially what we're getting. We're getting a live action, quote unquote, Rugrats in the form, in the style of what I assume is like a Baby Geniuses kind of movie. And I'm baffled. I don't know why. First of all, I don't even really think that the Rugrats IP is like all that relevant in today's modern age. Like, I feel like it's, I don't know. Dragon, what do you think? I think this is just like Nickelodeon is just like they're so like at this point they've mined the well of SpongeBob so much. SpongeBob is like the cow that's just been milked to death and is just left out on the side of the road, and it's like, okay, let's go back to the cash cow that we had before SpongeBob and start to milk it some more.
So yeah, Paramount's been kind of desperate with the Nickelodeon properties. And again, the easiest way they could actually make money off Nickelodeon properties, let's just actually release them all on DVD, Let's just properly re-release them and everything. And I mean, to be fair, we've been getting it. But not everything,
Uh-huh.
But, sorry, what I'm getting at is, we do the CG version of the Rugrats, which to my understanding, no one really cared for. At the very least,
it came and went like a wet fart.
Exactly. Well, the point is, whether they liked it or not, it came and went, and no one's really made a fuss about it. And this is just more of like, we have the property. I mean, there's something historic about Rugrats. All that we know about is like they call it a live action hybrid animated movie. So what they're saying is there's live action is going to be incorporated here. I can only imagine the babies will be CG, but everything else will be live action. Otherwise,
which sounds horrifying. Just genuinely horrifying.
Yeah, so I mean, it just feels like, why bother? Okay, it just feels like, guys, just let it lie. If anything, maybe, I don't know, re-release it with bonus features.
Bill Hader is live action Stu Pickles.
God,
I could see it. Could you see it?
I can see Bill Hader as anything, but it's
I know.
You see what I mean, though? It does feel like there's a desperation right now for the Nickelodeon media. We're not really doing as much with it as we potentially. For example, like Paramount seems to be re-releasing them finally, but again, it's like on like the worst app. It's like the worst like streaming service that it's on, which it makes it like a pain to watch. Amongst all the shows, like, well, they're all there, but it's so annoying to watch them because they have the ads and they never load right. Okay, but I'm saying like SpongeBob right now is at 25 years, and they seem to be doing a big to-do about that everywhere, but not really in kind of ways that really make a lot of sense. Like, hey, Wendy's, we're giving them the SpongeBob meals, but we're giving like the burgers to the one place that doesn't have round patties.
Oh man, oh god, that is just
But you see what I mean? It feels like we're celebrating our Nickelodeon properties
Yeah.
in really weird ways that don't really.
Dragon, I will never understand why Universal Studios doesn't just do a proper Bikini Bottom Land with an actual Krusty Krab.
Exactly. Anyway,
right.
so this is yet another confusing kind of choice by Paramount. But I mean, look, I have to give them points here, okay? Compared to Disney, at least their shows have gotten physical release. At least all the major ones have. Okay,
Sure,
at least like for example, we don't have like a where's Kim Possible, where's Buzz Lightyear Star Command, where's The Legend of Tarzan. We don't have like those lingering questions in terms of the physical release.
This is true.
I'll give them that. I
mean, in the case of the latter two, we don't even have a digital release for those.
I will say this though, if I'm not mistaken, Rugrats might be the exception, but I think Rugrats and SpongeBob possibly being the exception. All the other shows, Cat Dog, Angry Beavers, Danny Phantom, all of their DVD releases are the Shout Factory. So Shout Factory did that. Not even like Viacom and Paramount. They approved it. They didn't really do it though. So I don't even think I give them full credit on that. Like Shout Factory is like they're like the heroes of the DVD release these days.
That's true.
Like they're the ones saying, we're tired of this not being out. Like we're gonna put it out proper. Like, hey, RoboCop 2, which I got recently, but not recently, a few months back. RoboCop 2 has actual features on it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so just addressing a couple comments here. Little Blue, we did start at 10:05, technically a few minutes after 10:05. We had a couple technical difficulties, but no, I think, like Colby said, I think you might be having some daylight savings time issues here. Okay, Kogia says, I think there might have been 5 Baby Geniuses films. I think he's right. I know one of them takes place inexplicably in Egypt and is like an Indiana Jones knockoff.
I swear to God, I only thought there were 2 Baby Genius movies. It's crazy to me.
There were 2 theatrical ones, Dragon, but you underestimate the direct-to-video market.
God.
All right. Let's see. Little Blue, we are going to get to the Prince Charming news imminently, but just to address a couple of the other things here. Ice Age 6 is happening, Dragon. Are you stoked?
No.
No. Yeah, that's it. That's all we have to say about that.
Not really, no.
All right. Colby says Universal also announced a bunch of live-action Lego movies, which may be the dumbest way to do Lego movies.
Well, when they said live-action Lego movies, they don't mean like the Pharrell Williams thing, do they?
I don't know. Honestly, Dragon, you're going to be surprised what I have to say about that one. But
that's what I mean. Do you think this is what they meant, though? Like more of those?
Colby, do you know anything about this? Is it just because if it's more stuff in the piece-by-piece style, I'm honestly down for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like, that's,
What I'm assuming is it's more like, I don't know, maybe like biopics about the guys that made Lego. I don't know. It's weird. Colby, any more details about this would be appreciated if you have it. All right. Yes, moving on finally to some stuff that's actually good. All right. Paul King, the man behind the Paddington movies, is making a Prince Charming movie. I did not know it was for Disney, so that makes me a little bit more hesitant. But it's going to be with Chris Hemsworth. And I think this is a good move, Dragon. I think this makes a lot of sense. Chris Hemsworth recently kind of proved that he can do more than just Thor with, he was the voice of Optimus Prime in Transformers 1. I thought he did a really good job. He definitely had a character arc there where he started off as kind of like the more goofy, like surfer bro Chris Hemsworth, and then kind of like evolved into the Peter Collins style Optimus Prime that we know and love throughout the course of the movie. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I think Paul King is a good director for it. I'm not crazy about Wonka. I think Wonka is a movie that has not aged well, and it's not even been a year since it came out. But yeah, I don't know. What say you about it?
Well, I mean, look, I love Paul King stuff. I love those Paddington movies. I'm a little
Little Blue. I'm sorry, Little Blue. Talent is talent, man. And Disney hiring talent like Paul King, yeah, I do think that's a good move. Not to mention, I like the idea of doing a Prince Charming movie more than I like doing like, let's do live action Fox and the Hound next. You know what I mean? Like, I like that better than just going back to the well. So go ahead, Dragon. Sorry.
So that's the thing. So Paul King, I love him as a director. I love the way he's doing the Paddington movies. I'm reserving judgment on the third one because they cut my beloved Sally Hawkins from it. But we'll see where that goes. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Like for him to take on a project about Prince Charming, who was always like the most underwritten character in the Disney films. Like literally, like especially they're going with the first. Like I don't know which Prince Charming they're going for. I think it's going to be probably the first one from Snow White. But I hear that if I'm a betting man, I think he's going to do like an amorphous, just like Prince Charming, like not a specific Prince Charming, just kind of the amalgam of Prince Charming. That's what I think he's going to do.
Right, yeah.
Which I think is a good idea for a movie, and I think for him,
what would be funny if we had both the. Basically, like if Prince Charming, like if Hemsworth is basically playing like the Cinderella Prince Charming, right?
Yeah.
But then Prince Ferdinand from Snow White is also in the movie, and there's kind of like a rivalry, like all of the Just Giglet skit of like who is the real Prince Charming.
There you go. I think if I understand right, the ink isn't dry on Chris Hemsworth for this movie. Like a lot of people are speculating, like they're in talks with him, and they're probably going to get him. That thing, Hemsworth is the thing where Hemsworth does have range, but it's I don't know. I mean, Hemsworth, I don't know if he would have been my choice for Prince Charming, but I'm sure Paul King can kind of.
I think he's a good choice. I mean, I again, he's got kind of the pretty boy swagger, but he also played the villain in Furiosa, and I think he did a really good job with that. Probably one of the most memorable villains on screen this year for me. So
yeah.
Let's see. Little Blue. I don't know, man. I honestly think you're being a little pessimistic about this. Like what is there to do with Prince Charming? Like, have you seen Cinderella 3? The Prince Charming jumping out of a window meme? I mean, you can mine stuff from that character.
Well, that's the thing, because Charming's like a blank slate. You can do anything you want with him. That's where the intrigue is, and that's where I think Paul King is going to shine. Yeah. It's just the fact that it's like we don't know anything about this guy, and yet he's always so important in these fairy tales. You want to know more about him. Like, what is so special?
Again, I think it would be fun if they did a meta thing where they acknowledge that there's like multiple Prince Charmings from multiple fairy tales.
Well, it's also, and look at it this way. Look at it from namesake Prince Charming. There might be an ego with this guy. There's going to be like, is he is he going to be that again? Paul King, and here it's going to sound dumb, but Paul King, the word charming does instill confidence because he's all about charm in these movies. It's like okay, if he's going to do the Prince Charming movie, this guy's going to he's going to blow out charisma and magnetism. There's going to be something kind of fun to be had. I'm saying I think it could be work. I think it could work, but you're right though, TIki. Again, the Disney involvement in this does. You have to hope that Paul King's going to win out on the film that he's trying to do here. Now I don't know what happened with Wonka with him. Okay, I don't know how much of that is like is King going to doing the movie he wants to make versus maybe there's certain things we have to hit because it's Willy Wonka. So I don't know. That's the one thing. Honestly, that gives me pause more than anything else because Wonka. I love the way he made that movie, but I do I don't think it's a perfect film by any stretch.
I feel I feel like literally all the best parts of Wonka do not involve the character of Willy Wonka for me. I think Timothy Chalamet. I love Timmy Chals, but he was terribly miscast in that movie. Little Blue. I really don't understand your issue with this thing, man. I don't know what you're talking about. The window meme is an entirely different thing. Like, yeah, I know that they're not going to like directly reference the window meme or anything, but. I'm just saying, like Cinderella 3, like that is an example of how you can do the Prince Charming character. You don't love when? No, I don't, Peregrine. No, I don't, frankly. And as a zookeeper, you shouldn't either. Kogias, no. Bad.
I love that's where your line is with Kogias. That's why I think it's funny. It's just like, no.
Just no, I'm not going to acknowledge that. I will say maybe Wonka probably has better musical numbers. And I will say, Kogias, I'm on the fence about if I like the Tim Burton movie better. I'm on the fence about that one. Yeah.
Come on, there's no topping Pure Imagination from Gene Wilder singing Pure Imagination. Come on.
Well, I'm just saying the Chalamet version has more, like, there's also no topping the sheer boredom of Cheer Up Charlie. So
well, yeah, yes, but it's like one song it doesn't work in that movie. The rest of it's Oompa Loompa songs.
Yeah, the
okay.
songs don't really work that great either. Honestly.
Well, that's fine. Look, I will give.
That's one of the main reasons I do kind of like the Burton version better in some respects.
Look, I won't argue with you that yes, we have more variety, more stylistic, we mix and match things. We have stylistic more variety with the Tim Burton version and with the Oompa Loompas. I won't argue with you there, but I'm still saying there's something just kind of like.
Obviously, the actual performance of Wonka himself, you can't get better than Wilder, obviously. But
you gotta admit, even the simplistic Oompa Loompa songs, it's catchy and simple,
Sure, fair enough.
It's nice. It's harmless.
All right. Little Blue says, I'm not really making a fuss about this, and I don't want to sound like how Dragon feels towards the Lion King Splash Mountain ride. Dragon, tell us again how you feel about Pride Rock having a waterfall.
Well, there's no water there. It doesn't make any sense. There's like all these other locations, the Hakuna Matata location. It's like, come on. Plenty of water.
All right.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus, Little Blue. Just to serve your point.
All right, so we're going from Paul King to another king. King of the Hill, Dragon. Bobby Hill's design, and also some interesting details from his biography as a chef have been revealed. Did you look into the biography at all?
I didn't get a good chance to look it over.
So one of the main things is that that people are noticing is that the biography very much seems like Peggy had a hand in what was included in the biography.
Yeah, the spaghetti, the
spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah, I was trying to get the name right on that. Yeah,
right. And I just love the idea of Peggy being so egocentric that even at her son's like big moment of being the chef that's worthy of like a biography on his wall in the restaurant, like she's still like, no, you got to mention this Peggy, Bobby. I also love the idea that you got to think that there's going to be this conflict with Bobby where there's no way he's cooking with propane. There's just no way. And that is going to be genuine conflict with him and Hank. And I love the idea where Hank has got to be proud of his boy. But because of the propane thing, Dragon, there's going to be that distance, and I love that.
See, I love that, Tiki. I love the way you put that, because, again, when I think of this whole thing, I'm thinking of, like, the warm and fuzzies from the very end of King of the Hill, where it's like, you know what?
That's absolutely what they're jumping off of, though, with this premise for Bobby.
Just the idea that Hank Hill is going to be proud of his song, but you're right, though. I didn't think about, oh, God, yeah, he can't be cooking with propane. That's not going to end well.
Right.
So that's fast. That's a fascinating dichotomy there, because he loves his son. He's proud that of the man that he's become, but by the same token, he's Judas to me now.
Exactly. So I got to tell you, man, I'm pretty stoked for this King of the Hill reboot. I am definitely going to be paying attention to it.
This is my son, Bobby. I'm very proud of him, but he is dead to me because he has not used wonderful.
I genuinely hope that Pank and Hagee's design, Pank and Hagee, Jesus wow.
Well, there's a shipping name for you, kids.
Pank and Hagee. That's really bad. I'm genuinely hoping that their designs are basically just the Andersons from Beavis and Butthead.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
No, I know you're talking about. That's where they kind of got their start. So,
yeah, exactly. Just loop back around to that design. All right. What do you think of Bobby's design? I think it looks pretty on point.
Yeah, no, it looks on point. I think Pam Mullen's still going to voice Bobby, so that's gonna be
I think so. Remember, she just directed that movie that I think it was called Babes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
she
Yeah,
just directed that. So
yeah.
she's still around. She's still active.
Well, I know she's still around. I'm saying the fact that Bobby's grown up now. If he's gonna have the same voice, is
Right,
my
right.
point. That's the
It's do we know what they're doing with Luann? Is she just going to be written out or what?
Well, that honestly, I thought I heard they recast Lou, and that's what I thought I
I mean,
heard.
I would rather they recast her than just write her out
I
entirely.
think I think they recast her, but I don't know.
Hmm.
I think they
All
have
right.
archives of Dale, though. I think Dale's actors archives. I think we
Yeah.
have a
Oh
few,
God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I think we have a
Louise
few
Dale.
episodes of him before they ran out.
I feel like Luann, just based on the nature of her character, you probably could write out. Just say her and Lucky moved away somewhere. But
Yeah,
Dale would be harder to write out. Dale's pivotal to that dynamic.
yeah.
Anyway.
God, Dale. I just love that dude. Dale was so he was so nice to that kid that wasn't remotely his. He
Uh-huh.
loved he loved Junior Joseph.
Koki, yes, I'm honestly like that. What you just said right there about the original film not being very eventful. That's exactly why, on some level, I do prefer the Burden version. So I'm not arguing with you there. But I
You're
will
just
argue
picking
with you
fights with
about
all.
Wonka though. Wonka is not as good as either of them.
You're just picking fights with all the commenters, Stein, aren't you,
I
Tiki?
know, right? Anyways. Okay, Dragon, I'm going to let you take the lead on the next couple of these.
All right, so sorry, I just want to make sure I have the right one here.
We have the
Yeah,
dynamic duo
good.
animated film.
Yeah, so the DC original animated films they've taken a big shift now that James Gunn is basically he's calling the shots and what gets approved and doesn't now because they wrapped up they wrapped the Tomorrowverse with the Crisis on Infinite Earth films. So now it's like we're at the beginning of something, and right now, I mean, this December we're getting the Creature Commandos, but that's a series. So this is the first movie that they've announced, Dynamic
Uh-huh.
Duo. And Dynamic Duo is it's by this animation studio called Swaybox. And Tiki, you gotta look in the Swaybox. These guys do really impressive
Yeah,
work.
I just looked up some of their images and they look like really cutting edge.
Did you see the Hogarth test?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah,
I just did a quick Google image search.
so that's the thing. You can find this on YouTube. They did this test footage to demonstrate what they can kind of do with puppetry. Essentially, they use kind of like robotics and kind of like kind of go motion animation stuff. It's kind of like it's a little bit like what Tippett does, where essentially it's kind of like they have like they have kind of animatronics in their stop motion animation, so it kind of works, but not like individual frame. Like take a picture and move it a little bit, take a picture. It like actually moves in camera.
Uh huh.
So they did like a test of Hogarth from Iron Giant as like kind of like it's kind of like a clay sculpt essentially. And it's really impressive. So that's essentially so this dynamic duo film is kind of a more family friendly. It's like I don't know how like I don't know if this is gonna be a great comparison. Like Merry Little Batman was a very kind of cutesy around the holidays, family friendly Batman kind of take. Now I don't know if we're gonna fully go that route with this, but the idea is kind of more of like a for everyone kind of a. It's about Dick Grayson, DG, Tiki. So it's the same
Thank
thing.
you, Dragon. Thank you. I'm never going to live that
I
down.
didn't want you to be lost there. Okay, so DG, that's also Dick Grayson. Okay, so Dick Grayson, who was the original Robin. So this is about Dick Grayson and Jason Todd interacting and kind of meeting each other, and probably not like they're not fully. They're probably it's more like a one-off, like we're not following the lore of the comics kind of a thing here, where it's like, what if these two kids met each other and kind of became Robins, maybe under the influence of Batman, but not like adopted and taken in by Batman. Seems to be the vibe here, but it'll be done in mixed media, so it's going to be like the Swaybox stop motion crossed with CG style. That's essentially what their style is. It's got CG animation along with actual in-camera puppets.
Uh huh.
So this sounds really interesting. The fact that James Gunn is like the first thing that he's approving under like his banner. They've never done anything like this before in terms of like the mediums that they told these stories. And we very recently got like a CG.
Honestly, like one of the worst parts about those DC animated movies is just that the animation budget is pretty flat most of the time.
So this seems to not be being. This seems to not have that issue, which could be really interesting. And the fact this is what they're leading with, it instills a lot of confidence. So this is good.
All right. Let's see. Kogios mentions crypto, and we should just briefly mention. What do you think of the image of crypto that we got?
Oh, it looks good. If I understand, right, I don't know if it's the. James Gunn has a dog when he was writing the Superman script, he adopted a dog, which is what inspired Krypto to be in the movie. Now, I don't know if he's actually using his real dog in the movie as Krypto, but his dog is a lot like Krypto.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, Code Geass, Dwayne Johnson needs to stay the hell away from DC. Just period. Like, that's all I'm going to say on the Dwayne Johnson thing.
Dwayne Johnson, he had all and he threw it away. Dwayne Johnson does not. I lost a lot of respect for The Rock.
Same.
I don't mean I hate the guy or anything, but it's like, you know what? I lost respect for him.
I can't look at him like he's not a giant shill anymore.
Well, that's the thing. I used to look at The Rock. Man, The Rock's doing it up right now. I look at The Rock and it's like, you know what? You're just an actor, Dwayne.
Dwayne.
Yeah. You lost the monolithic status.
Okay.
I'm going to see Rogue One, but I'll know, Dwayne. I'll know.
All right. So we got some Green Lantern casting. Take us through that.
Yeah, so a lot of this was speculated, but very recently now officially confirmed. So Kyle Chandler is playing the older, kind of wizened Hal Jordan, who's like he's kind of the veteran space cop.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron, I keep saying Aaron Pierre, but I think it's might be pronounced some other way. But the point is, Aaron, let's call him Aaron Pierre, Aaron Pierce. He's the actor from Rebel Ridge I told you about, Tiki. So
right.
So it's so funny how this worked, right? Everyone was kind of saying, "Oh man, this guy would be a really good Jon Stewart." And you see him in that movie. Oh my God, yes! When I saw Rebel Ridge, I absolutely see that now. I would love for him to be. And I heard he was in the run. He's like, "Oh dear God!" I was like, between him and another guy, and they went with him. I was like, I'm very excited about this casting because he's like Jon Stewart, walked right out of the animated series, just a little younger. Mm-hmm. And that's the dynamics. We have like the younger, fresher kind of Green Lantern recruit and him. I did hear something. I don't know how official this is, but there is one concerning plot element for this Green Lantern show. It sounds like it's going to be Earthbound, which does seem to be kind of like why on earth would you do? Why literally on earth?
Probably to disassociate it from the Ryan Reynolds version would be my guess. Honestly.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing, though, Tiki. It's the question of I'm not fully bumping up against it, but I think the consensus is like, hey, they're pretty much given to a TV budget of like we can't set in space for budgetary reasons, but it still feels like Green Lantern of all characters. They're space cops, and we're putting them on Earth. It's like one Green Lantern on Earth, absolutely fine. That's how it goes. He goes around. He's got a ring. Right. He stops crime. Okay. But two Green Lanterns, they're needed for a very special case on Earth versus like going into space on a mission. I don't know. Look, it's not a kiss of death.
It doesn't bother me, but I don't know much about the Green Lantern lore. I do know it's very space-centric, but I also know I'm not really a sci-fi guy. So
I guess, T, it's less about the setting. It's more like what crisis on Earth would it take two Green Lanterns to solve?
I mean, it is the DC universe, Dragon. A bunch of shit goes down. We don't know.
But here's the thing: it's just we're going to be bringing the aliens to Earth. I guess is going to be their solution. There, we're like, okay. I guess Peacemaker kind of did that already, but okay.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, this is like aliens invading Earth. This is kind of part of James Gunn's wheelhouse.
I know. It's just we already did that though twice.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
But just on the casting, I don't know much about the Jon Stewart actor, but I think from what you told me about him, he sounds perfect. And Kyle Chandler, I absolutely think is perfect for like an older Hal Jordan. I think that's just
spot on. That's the thing. This feels like really good casting.
And you know me, Kyle Chandler, just one of my favorites. Dude's a class act.
He's your second favorite Chandler.
That's probably accurate, honestly.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so not much about this. It's just glad it's happening. Invincible Season 3 was announced for February 2025. No breaks. No breaks. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
look at that Bezos Dragon actually making a logical decision over there on Amazon.
I just love, like, just everyone's like, we love Invincible Season 2. One problem. Breaking it up, we hated that. Don't do it again, Kirkman.
I also feel like it has not been nearly as drawn out of a hiatus as the last one. Because, Dragon, I will never forget that fucking teaser trailer for Invincible Season 2, where the whole point of the teaser trailer, Dragon, the whole point of the goddamn teaser trailer, I'm going to get heated here, is like Alan the alien pressuring Mark for a release date, right? That was the whole point.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even give us that. They just gave us a year. They just gave us was it late 2023 is what they gave us? Or was it just the year? Not even a time frame. Just the year.
I think they might have said late. It might have said late 2023, but it was very big.
That's hardly a release date.
So Cecil, your hero here, Cecil, he came in. He said, "No, we're not doing that again. Tell us, kid, what's your plan? When's it coming out?"
Right.
So that was this is a fun announcement. Even calling out the older announcements, that was fun.
And I'm excited. I think with Invincible season 2, I think we kind of got through some of the, kind of like the in between major story arcs kind of stuff. We had some memorable stuff too. And now with spoilers for Invincible season 2, now with Mark and Amber officially broken up, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of room moving forward. J.K. Simmons coming back into the play in a more prominent way. I'm really.
This is his wife.
He does. Yeah. That is seriously the most terrifying, husband misses his wife sentiment ever. Anyways, all right. And last,
I've heard. I heard someone had the most excellent theory of casting I ever heard for Invincible season 3. And I desperately want it to happen because you would love it. Tiki, you specifically would love it. Okay, so essentially the Bane of Invincible. I don't mean I mean literally Bane the character. Like the equivalent of Bane the character in Invincible is a character called Conquest, who we kind of been hyping up a little. Like we intimated in season 2. We saw him very briefly in season 1. And when we saw Viltrum, he's in the background, but he's there. The hope is that we get Jeffrey Dean Morgan to voice him.
I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is just great on everything.
Now, Tiki, do you know why that would? That would work so well, don't you?
Why?
Okay, who voices Invincible, Tiki?
Oh my God! Oh yeah! Okay.
Right? Yeah. That's why it would be revenge. That's why. And remember, we've gotten all
it like a champ.
So that's the thing, Tiki. We've gotten pretty much all the Walking Dead cast in this show, except him.
And Andrew Lincoln. We don't have.
Okay, you're right. Bernthal hasn't showed up either, but that's what I'm saying. There's time, though. There's time.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Sorry, moving on.
All right. Okay, so Marvel has released essentially a sizzle reel of their TV stuff, and some of it looks pretty cool. Other stuff I'm a little bit lukewarm on. The cool stuff, though, Dragon, I've been a little bit on the fence about Daredevil Born Again. I haven't been as on the hype train as you've been.
You haven't seen the footage properly, though.
No, but I've got to say, seeing that footage, man, seeing Matt Murdock and Kingpin at that diner and Kingpin cracking up, I'm on board. I'm stoked. Let's do this shit.
I'm so looking forward to that too.
Because, I mean, there were just a lot of variables with that show. Were they going to get it right? Was it going to feel like Marvel Netflix? This feels like Marvel Netflix.
They're they're taking a genuine stab at Marvel Netflix on this one. This is the best chance they're going to have at it.
Right. So, yeah, I'm on board for that. Ironheart, man, I don't even know if I'm going to bother with it. I don't know. That feels like that show should have come out 1 year after Wakanda Forever if it was gonna come out. It feels a little too late. What if season 3? I'm genuinely kind of surprised that they're doing it because season 2 had absolutely no hype behind it.
Well, remember, this is the ending of it, though. It's not coming back after this, and it's this year, and they're pretty much what's left over. So
Sure. Marvel Zombies. I mean, I like the concept of Marvel Zombies. I'll definitely watch that. I'm not exactly
it might have Blade
about it, but I'll watch it.
You gotta watch it because it might have Blade in it.
Right. Let's see. What else did we get in that sizzle reel? Anything else?
Yes, we had. We had 2 other things. We had a Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We had a quick little glimpse of it, which here's the thing.
It looks all right. The You know what the animation style reminds me of more than anything?
What does it remind you of?
It actually kind of reminds me of an updated version of the MTV Spider-Man.
I had a feeling you were going to bring that up.
Yeah. Which I have kind of a soft spot for, as you know. So.
Yeah. The coolest thing about the MTV Spider-Man was we had the Michael Clark Duncan Kingpin in that show.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, here's the thing. looks good, but it's always the hoops we have to jump through to do Spider-Man in animation.
Oh,
Okay,
I
because
know.
we have that, and it's like, okay, it has to be the only way we can do a Spider-Man show with all the constraints we have in the MCU with Spider-Man these days. It's like it has to be in the multiverse, which is what this show is. That's the whole
Right.
thing. It's,
Right.
it's like we are going to get Daredevil in this show, so Charlie Cox is going to be playing Daredevil in this show, but multiverse.
Yeah.
It's like, come
Well.
on, so close. We're gonna have Norman Osborn. How? Multiverse.
Exactly.
However, with the buzz of this show, there is talk of they're having conversations right now about Spider-Man '98.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised they didn't just go with that instead of this, though.
Well, that's
Honestly.
the thing. The success of '97, I guess, was a little unprecedented for them. Where like if they dropped in the Easter egg of that Spider-Man, people are desperately going to want that Spider-Man show to come back. So
Uh-huh.
I'm hoping it happens. I really am.
All right, then what's the other thing we got?
Wonder Man.
Oh, right. Okay, so this character is an actor, right?
Yeah, that's his whole thing.
That's what I thought. That's because honestly, at first I was like, wait, are they showing us like the actor who plays Wonder Man's audition? It's like, yes, but in the context of the actual like show, that's what they're showing us.
Yeah, so that's the Abdul Mateen.
Oh God, I know. Don't even try to pronounce that name. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while since we've really had to talk about it, so I kind of
Uh-huh.
lost the memorization I had for his name. But I think it's like the second. No, his name is like he's like a 2 at the end.
Sure.
And anyway, the point being, this guy played Black Manta, and he was in the Watchmen show. He's playing Simon Williams. He's playing Wonder Man, and also here's the cool thing. Kind of forgot about it. I heard he was in the show. I didn't think that he was going to have this main role in the show. Trevor Slattery's in it, so it's him and Kingsley.
Yeah, nice.
So that's the idea, like the two actors being kind of a buddy duo. That's really
I
cool.
do like that the MCU is kind of like taking these like fringe characters like Agatha and Trevor Slattery and actually doing some interesting stuff with them.
So that's promising, the whole Trevor Slattery part of it. Also, Eyes of Wakanda, which Mark Bernard worked on, that's the world building.
Sure.
So that's going like deep into the history.
Out of all the animated stuff, that definitely has my interest the most.
So the fact that Bernard, who's been doing some Wakanda-related stuff recently, between that and the new Captain America Black Panther game that's coming out,
Right.
this is a good omen for like the world building of Wakanda without getting into like Wakanda Forever territory. It seems,
All right. Okay, folks, you've waited over an hour for it. Let's officially get into it. October 2024 movies. Dragon, are you one of the weird people that actually likes Joker Folia 2?
Tiki, I'm going to tell you how I felt about Joker Folia 2. Okay, you ready? You ready for this?
I just want to emphasize, folks, Dragon and I have not talked about this movie all month. We have specifically saved this moment for Memoirs.
Okay. Tiki, this movie wasn't very good.
Yep, more or less.
Okay, I want to say this. I can somewhat respect what the director was going for on this. Somewhat. Okay, now when I say this, I don't, in terms of like the whole behind the scenes thing of why they can basically what, they're not gonna. He very clearly did want to do this film because, as everyone said, the first film is a solid one-off film. The whole point of that movie is this is an Elseworlds tale, which traditionally Elseworlds at their best are one-offs. That's not to say we don't revisit the Elseworlds, but usually when we do, the results are dicey or cash-ins. So, it impressed me, again, the whole thing of the first Joker movies, it impressed me how Phillips challenged himself and did a movie he had never done before, and it got him money, it got him Oscars, and he was rewarded for taking that chance.
I still can't believe that movie got nominated for Best Picture, though. It was a decent movie, but Best Picture, really?
I mean, still, it's impressive that, Joaquin Phoenix won actor that year, for Joker.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The point being, it won awards, major awards.
Andrew Garfield should have won that year, but whatever.
Okay, sure. And just the fact that, pre-Deadpool Wolverine was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time.
Uh-huh.
So that it was impressive in that regard. And, and again, I've always I knew they were never going to do this, but my only pitch, the only way you could ever revisit this film, because again, it's such a one-off, is like, still, to me, even after watching this film, it feels like Batman, like a Batman looking for an aged Joker, dealing with like a Batman Beyond kind of like the only way you could do a Joker sequel and have like to this film and have it make any sense and track and be something I think people would want to see is like if it's like a grown up Bruce Wayne having become Batman, he's looking for the original Joker that was responsible for all this, and he has to look through him through a sea of Jokers, kind of like Batman Beyond, like all the inspired Jokers that are now populating the city to find.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that you can't put Joaquin Phoenix front and center in something like that.
Exactly, which again,
Yeah.
that's why I know they would never in a million years do that. But to me, like in like the whole like pie in the sky, that's the only way I could ever see them having something to go the well with. But again, you'd have to take a back seat to doing what the first one was.
Right.
So yeah, so while I can so aesthetically, I think the best things I can say about this film aesthetically in terms of the cinematography and the performances, that works. That's pretty good in this film. Doesn't necessitate it coming back though. The story is crap.
Yeah, there's literally like this movie is like a 2-location movie. We're at Arkham, then we're in the courthouse, then we're at Arkham, then we're back at the courthouse.
It's like I think a lot of people would probably tell you, look, Joker on trial. I've seen stories of this very rarely where you can have Joker on trial and have it work. But what you can't do, you can't build to that or have him and have him just give up at the end. You can't build to a trial and have him give up at the end. You can't do that.
So, I mean, I honestly think, and Kogias, you're going to hate me for saying this because you're a big fan of the original. I honestly think this is not a good movie at all. I honestly think I have a little bit more respect for it than I do the original, just because the original, as you know, Dragon, my big hang up with the original is that it is so derivative of King of Comedy and Taxi Driver that it's a movie that literally just feels like it's just playing the Martin Scorsese hits and doesn't really have anything original to say. You can't say the same thing about this movie. I mean, for as batshit crazy as this movie is, it's definitely got something to say. It definitely swung for the fences, and I do kind of respect that. I think this movie has 2 really good elements in it. Number one, I actually think Brendan Gleeson has a really good role. I really like how his character switched between kind of like protective of Arthur and like Arthur's main abuser. Like I really kind of like that sort of like, you know, push and pull with him. It was genuinely compelling. And the Gary Puddle scene, Dragon. The Gary Puddle scene.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. The performances.
What everyone says is true. The Gary Puddle scene basically should have just been a short film epilogue.
So that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with the performances in this film, okay? But again,
Joaquin is trying so hard that I genuinely feel bad for him.
But that's the thing. So in the comments, it's Peregrine, right? He's Keeper Colby.
Yes.
So Keeper Colby here. The theory being that Joker 2 was made despite everyone who made him do a sequel, which again, I mean, is not inaccurate to say. Where again, Phillips he very much said after the first one came out, there's not going to be a sequel, and then they made so much money, they dumped a lot of that money on his front lawn, saying, "Come back, we want more." And it's like, you know what? Fine, I'm gonna make. It's kind of the Tim Burton thing. Tim Burton made Batman, so like, well, let you come back, make a Batman sequel, but just make it a Tim Burton movie that happens to feature Batman.
Right.
And here's the thing: aesthetically, it's like, okay, Joker, the Joker movie done as a musical is. I mean, it's a choice that kind of.
I genuinely like the idea. The problem is all in the execution, because this movie does what you should never do in a movie musical, where the songs screech the plot to a halt, and they're basically saying the same thing. Like Joker songs are all just like, I've got a new love in my life, and I'm gonna sing about it. And then Harley songs are all like, I want to be famous, and I'm going to be a star, and I'm going to sing about it. And we just repeat that note over and over and over. And it becomes maddening, Dragon. I mean, the musical numbers are like by far the worst part of this movie, which is insane.
Here's what I would argue with that, too. I mean, not argue. Here's what I agree with, and just kind of rephrase it a bit, is that the opportunity with this film that I think a lot of people were looking forward to and really wanted to see, especially with the musical component that we very vaguely, like, we tapped the glass at, but we didn't smash through it in a really cool way, is that Joker, we had the unreliable narrator thing set up at the very end of Joker, which was like the big, he's walking up with the bloody shoe and everything, and the whole thing of like, how much of it is in his head, how much of it happened, did not happen. The musical thing is like we're going into his head and seeing what kind of crazy stuff he's dreaming up, and we know he had like
it's not that crazy though. That's the
yeah,
problem.
that's what I'm saying, Tiki, is that again, it's pretty much like think about it when he does like the big, hey Arthur, how do you feel about that? And then he sings. Everyone's just kind of standing around though. It's like that's not interesting at all. It's just things kind of stop to a girl. Like, okay, did that happen?
This number was the one time it actually felt like a musical.
Yeah. But you see, here's what frustrates me though, okay? All the songs in this movie, essentially the songs that are used, I love these songs. Not necessarily. I love the needle drops because this is my kind of music. That's the frustrating thing. This is like, I love all these songs. And they made the movie. Like Bewitched, Bothered, Bewildered. I love that song. It's in here.
Right.
Anyway, so here's like I said, I can respect seeing the logical next steps, but not. And the fact that another thing that people have kind of pointed out is that it's kind of Todd Phillips trying to say like we're not glorifying the Joker, but in doing so, we're setting him back though, which is a problem. Again, if we're not glorifying Joker, we're setting him back to where we're seeing a lot more Arthur Fleck than we should. He should already be he's the Joker now. Okay, there's no split personality thing. I can understand her, Catherine Keener's character using that as like a defense, but
sure,
it feels like we recap the first film far too much in the trial in the first film, and what it feels like when I look at this is that wouldn't it be better if we just kind of condensed all the trial stuff into Act 1 and then an escape happens? Doesn't that feel like at least that'd be a starting place?
I feel like that's kind of what the sorry, hold on. That's kind of what the trailers were implying, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it just to me, it just seems like that might have been like. Here's the thing, because I've seen like Joker stories where we've had him on like this is not. They don't put him on trial all the time because they realize it's a dead zone. Because unless you have like there's this Batman story called Dead to Rights, and it's a really good story. It's basically Andrew Kreisberg, one of the guys that did the CW shows back when they were good. He wrote the story where, okay, what if we approach Batman like a Law and Order episode? So basically, we did Batman through the crime procedural thing. So we did one time really see Joker at a trial, and he messed with the trial. Like the judge had a peanut allergy. He flicked the peanut into the judge's water, and he almost keeled over. Like that's Joker stuff you do at a trial, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff I could see, like, but again, you can't maintain that for a film, let alone like we're going to get to that in the third act. We're going to leave the Joker there until Act 3. And then he kind of
literally going to have like the most half-hearted, like, oh, look, Harvey Dent's face is fucked up. Ooh.
Yeah. Here's the thing too, the very end, okay? We already did this with the Wayne murder, the idea he inspired madness. So that's the thing everyone's complaining about the ending. The ending itself is not necessarily the problem. The problem is that we've already did this far better, more subtly in the first film. It's frustrating. No one's happy with it, and I can understand why. It's
all right. Yeah. Colby says he really didn't jive with anything in Joker 2, but the implied SA scene was so fucking unnecessary.
Well, there's still a question of the way they shot that. I don't think it's really supposed to be implied. I think that's just they beat him up in that shower, but I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, Dragon, I think the best case scenario for this movie. Have you ever seen Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay, that would have been the fucking best case scenario. Do musical numbers like that.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? God damn it.
Well, again, if the movie's made out of spite, that's why they didn't do that.
I mean, if you think about it, like the plot of this movie is actually very similar to Chicago. It's using a murder trial and like weaponizing the media frenzy around it. Like, oh, it's frustrating, missed opportunity. Anyways,
yeah.
All right, Dragon. Let's just go ahead and maybe try and kind of clip through some of these a little bit faster. I know we had a lot to say about Joker too. That's fine. Okay, Saturday night. So, yeah, as you all know, Saturday Night was my most anticipated movie of the rest of the year. And Dragon, I like this movie, but it's it's got to be up there with it's going to be in the nominees shortlist at the Golden Tikis for the most disappointing movie of the year. Because here's the thing, I think this movie is firing on all cylinders until the third act. And then once Lorne Michaels leaves 30 Rock and goes to that fucking godforsaken ice rink, Dragon, I don't think I legitimately think this might be one of the biggest like movie falling off a fucking cliff moments since Cranston was killed off in Godzilla. I honestly think it's that bad. Like, it happens later on in the movie, so therefore the movie itself is better. But man, it kills the momentum. It's like everything that this movie has built up until that point just dies the second that Lorne Michaels leaves 30 Rock. Because the believability of the real-time stuff, which I was really into and I do think was captured pretty well, is just like, I'm sorry, but like, you know, going to Madison Square Garden, the ice skating, and then that's all. Like, if you want to do that, fine. It still stretches the realm of believability, but whatever. The thing that really, really pisses me off about that sequence is you expect me to believe that one of the other head writers of SNL was just randomly recruited at a bar like a half hour before the first show? No, piss off with that. Good cast, good direction, but man, the last act of this movie pisses me off, man. It really does. Did you not see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry. Did I spoil some stuff?
Well, I mean, I've been kind of hearing like, well, I know you weren't thrilled with Act 3. I don't exactly know what happens in Act 3, but I mean, I assume the show goes on. But from what I understand,
no, it's just a big failure, and the big twist of this movie is that it's an alternate universe where SNL never got off the ground.
All
right.
Obviously. Well, look, I've heard like, you know, people say some really good things about the movie, like people who are like big SNL fans saying, yeah, they've accepted it's kind of like it's the miracle exception. What if we had certain people there that night who weren't there that night? But I'm hearing
I don't mind that. I specifically mind the fact that, Dragon, when you see it, you'll know when Lorne Michaels leaves 30 Rock, the real-time element of this movie goes out the goddamn window. You will know when you see it. All right, what? Go ahead.
Here's what I want to know, though, Tiki. Taking that out of the equation, just like the way you feel that third act should have gone. I mean, do you like, with some distance, do you think the movie actually plays? Do you think it's still like a really solid movie aside from that element?
Aside from that, yeah, I think it's pretty solid. But the problem is, you know me and endings, Dragon.
But that's a thing. That's a you thing. That's what I'm wondering, though. Is that, you know?
Yeah, I think the first 2/3 are really well done, really well executed. You know who was really good in this movie that's kind of getting overshadowed by some of the more like famous comedians that are being portrayed here is Cooper Hoffman. I think is genuinely great. He's kind of like a network producer who's on Lorne Michaels' side more than Willem Dafoe is, because Willem Dafoe essentially plays the antagonist producer who basically doesn't believe in the show. And Cooper Hoffman, he believes in the show, but he also sees all the chaos going on, and he's trying to, you know, I honestly think if the movie was more centered around him, I think it would, because Lorne Michaels honestly is not that interesting of a character in this movie. Honestly, he's kind of just the straight man. But the cast is fantastic. I will say Little Blue addresses the Jim Henson thing. Little Blue, I think, I don't think people are necessarily upset about, because it is accurate that the Muppeteers weren't treated great on set. That's accurate.
Oh, yeah, the SNL guys hated Jim Henson.
The problem is that every time Jim Henson pops up in this movie, Dragon, it's literally the same joke every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the same joke of like, oh, they did lewd things with Big Bird.
I heard the guy who played Jim Henson also played Andy Kaufman. Is that true?
Yes, and he also played Cousin Greg, which I think I didn't even really realize in the moment, but it blew me away when I realized it in the credits.
How was the Kaufman part? Did Kaufman impress?
He's fine. He's just doing the taxi driver voice the whole time, which I don't think Kaufman did in real life. It's not like I could see that with Paul Rubens. If you're doing a Paul Rubens thing, I could see him being in character as Pee Wee Herman. I can't see that for Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman, from what I remember about him, didn't really like being typecast as the taxi driver character. So the fact that he's just doing that voice the whole time, it's not great. It didn't really jive that well. We get the Mighty Mouse thing, but it's like, yeah, I've already seen it in multiple different iterations, so didn't really land with me, honestly. All right. Anyways.
All right, let's see. Okay, next up. Brothers. Let me tell you about Brothers, Tiki.
Yeah, this seems like a good movie if I'm like just sick or bored or something. I don't know.
Well, okay, so this is an Amazon film directed by the guy who did Palm Springs, which we really liked.
I forgot it was Paul. It was that guy.
Yeah, so it's got an all-star cast. We got Dinklage, Josh Brolin, Glenn Close, and Brendan Fraser. So again, all-star cast. One of the Coen brothers wrote this film, along with.
Are you sure it wasn't the guy who wrote the Garfield movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, so Mac and Blair wrote this as well. So he's working on the Toxic Avenger movie, which is how they got. I imagine how they got Peter Dinklage, because he's in that movie. So I think that's how this kind of project got together. Would be my guess. So basically, yeah, this is overall. This feels like a very Coen brothers. Well, I guess brother take on twins. Now,
right,
I want to be very clear. It's not
very obviously lifted from Twins.
Yeah. I want to be very clear, though. It is not like it's not a beat for beat like retelling of Twins or anything. All I'm saying is like it's starting from there, but it's very twisted. It's without imagine Twins without the obvious gag of like, but Vincent were twins,
Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's a shame this movie wasn't better. I love the idea of these two brothers. One of them, Josh Brolin is trying to reform his life, and Dinklage is the con man. So again, in that regards, there's kind of like the Julius and Vincent kind of dynamic. In that regard, only what if Julius had a little bit more blood on his hands, so to speak? Not a killer, but like just had like more sludge on his hands. So they give each other a lot of grief, but they do love each other, and that's where the heart of the movie is. Like seeing them being these brothers who are very, they had a very train wreck of a mom, and they really, they were close. They loved each other, and they're still there for each other. The chemistry is there, and it's funny. However, and my fear going this movie was that throwing mom in the mix, was going to cripple the film, and it didn't. So thank God it didn't cripple the movie like I thought it would. Glenn Close coming in the picture, basically getting the boys back together for a caper. It's a whole thing, but it definitely pulls focus, though. I will say that pulls focus, but it doesn't cripple the film. Brendan Fraser, he is silly fun. Brendan Fraser is great. Okay,
he's probably the reason to watch the movie for me. Honestly.
Yes, he is. I will warn you, though. Okay,
because I gotta say, man, I like Dinklage, but the shit he pulled with Snow White, I'm still not. And that's totally like outside the realm of his acting, but it still kind of sours me.
If you do need something cathartic, though, he does get beat up a lot in this movie. So.
Okay, well, I don't want to hurt the man physically, Dragon.
Well, I mean, he's fine. It's a movie. I'm just saying
physical pain. I'm just saying he was kind of an ass in that particular situation.
I'm saying this is comeuppance, though. Okay, I'm saying
fair enough.
Saying you can watch again. It's movie violence.
I mean, he was really good in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes last year, the Hunger Games movie. He was really good in that. Anyway,
I'm saying if you ever want revenge on Dinklage, you could watch this movie. You could watch I Care a Lot.
Right.
Anyway, no. But here's the thing. So I'm going to warn you about this. So there's one scene in this movie that is horrifying. There's a scene with an orangutan.
Oh no.
And this, I guess, is more directed at Peregrine since he's here. So
Peregrine's seen this movie. I know for a fact he has.
So there's a scene with this orangutan that, to me, was a bridge too far. Something really sick and demented happens with this orangutan, and it's both sick and wrong. And Brendan Fraser has a hysterical reaction to the sick and wrong thing the orangutan does, and like the way he screams is priceless. It's just that we just do like a smash cut to it, like after one scene where it's like it's just running away. It's oh god, it's priceless. So look, it's not a special. It's not a special slam dunk like Palm Springs was. Like Palm Springs, like hit all the right spots. This is not Palm Springs. I will say it should have been released this month. It should have been released in November because it's set around Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
that's kind of a missed opportunity. Anyway, so it's an oddball. That's all I'm going to say. But it's an oddball.
All right,
at your own peril.
Okay, next up, Smile 2. Yeah, this is not your type of movie at all, Dragon, but as you know, I don't know if you remember, but the original Smile from a couple years ago, I was very lukewarm on. I thought it was so mid. I didn't like it at all, really.
I remember you not loving Smile.
I thought the allegory of like, oh, it's a metaphor for the trauma. Do you get it? The monster is the trauma. Ooh. I did not. That kind of fell flat for me. Dragon, let me tell you, Smile 2, genuinely one of the all-time best horror sequels I have ever seen in my fucking life. It is so much better than the first movie. It outclasses the first movie in every conceivable way. Dragon, I genuinely love this movie as a horror movie. This is my favorite horror movie of 2024. And I am shocked to say that. Paragon can tell you, like, leading up to this movie, it was actually like a running joke where it's like, I want to see anything in theaters but Smile 2. I hope that Smile 2 doesn't take up all the theaters. But no, man, so just to break it down a little bit, I don't want to go too much into depth because I know this is a movie you're likely not going to see. But Naomi Scott, who played Princess Jasmine in the live-action Aladdin, she plays a pop star in this movie, and this movie is like totally disattached from the original. You don't really need to watch the original at all. Like the first 5 minutes have to do with the surviving character, but then he very quickly gets disposed of. So Naomi Scott, basically, she gets infected with the smile curse, and let me tell you, Dragon, the difference between her and the main character from the first movie is just night and day. Like, you are so much more in her headspace here. And what I love about this movie is that because it does deal with the mental health side of things and the trauma, and it does deal with like public breakdowns and like, this is a social anxiety horror movie of the highest order. Dragon, I'm just going to lay out one scene here. For me, the most chilling moment in this whole fucking movie is a scene where the character has to make a speech in front of a bunch of charity people. It's for like it's at a charity function for like kids with cancer or something. And she was kind of forced into it by her record producer. She doesn't really want to be there, especially because she's dealing with the smile demon. And that the smile demon is not the scary part of the scene. The scary part of the scene is that she rushes on stage too quickly and her makeup is smudged in a really messed up way that it's like it gets under your skin because everyone in the audience is like, oh, what's up with her makeup? And you in the audience are like, oh my God. Like, she does not know how unhinged she looks just because of this fucking makeup. And Drake, I have never seen a horror movie do that to me, where a smudge of makeup can get me like intensely on edge. And I was just, I was thrilled with it. So this just genuinely has some incredible set pieces. I loved it. I'm shocked. This is easily the biggest surprise of the year for me, as far as like my expectations going in and then what I actually thought about it. Like, this is up there with like some of the best horror of the 2020 so far, genuinely. All right, yeah, big recommend for horror fans at least. Okay, Dragon, we have the Menendez brothers. I got to tell you right off the bat, the social media surrounding this thing is just kind of sickening. I genuinely don't think I've ever seen like like the weird true crime fangirls come out of the woodwork in quite a way as this. So that keeps me off of the Menendez stuff, but tell me about it regardless.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because this is the documentary film, The Menendez Brothers. So this is I'm going to say this, okay, overall between both things, because later on with the TV stuff, I watched the show as well, so I'll be kind of doing this in two parts, I guess, but to keep it kind of on target, but the connecting thread between both these, it's getting more and more morbid and unethical. The way Netflix, is kind of marketing the serial killers these days. We're doing like the serial killer show, and then the documentary that follows.
I think I'm pretty much like off of the Netflix true crime stuff. I morally just can't do it anymore.
I'm just saying the continuous. It's just like the way it's like a marketing strategy. That's what really deters me from it. Like, okay, if you're gonna do, like, for example, if you get one bite at like the Dahmer apple, like okay, because that's if you're
if I'd like a few bites at it.
Well, we now have. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you told me, like, okay, we're gonna do one thing on Dahmer, and then then we just keep doing, like, we're gonna do Dahmer the series, and Dahmer the docu-series, and then it's like we historically we've had like the one Dahmer movie that gave us Jeremy Renner. So I mean that was worth it, So So here we've condensed it into a feature, which I mean I'll say is refreshing that we haven't done like another docu-series with this. At least it was like a feature we got all in there. It has actual interviews with the actual brothers, like today, kind of like telling their story as it goes. It's a little different from the series. It's like, I think the reason the Menendez brothers, I think it's like the 35th anniversary this year or something for them.
Wow, what a milestone!
Yeah.
Sorry.
So here's where I want to get into the thing you were talking about, Tiki. Is that I don't think they really hit on the documentary brings this up, the point that you just made, but I don't really think they hit on how messed up it is. I think they kind of bring it up and like, oh, isn't this kind of a fun fact, kind of a thing, which I think is kind of the wrong mindset, where it's like social media.
It is. To say it's a fun fact is entirely inaccurate.
Well, this is what I'm getting at the very end. It's like, maybe not fun, but they kind of look at it as like a silver lining almost. Versus
no, that's the opposite of what it is.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So the way Tiki, so the end of this documentary is them bringing up like the whole weird social media thing with the Menendez brothers, where it's like there is a movement now where people like the kids today are looking back on the Menendez brothers with sympathy, which is very chilling, but we don't frame it like that in the documentary. We frame it like, I think we should be hitting, like, in the crux of the documentary should be, okay, they're telling their story, and then at the end we sober the audience with the reality that people are buying into it, and it's not cool.
Right.
But we're not saying that. We're saying, and here's the media response to it, where, the kids are rooting for release for these two crazy brothers, It's messed up.
Sure.
So again, I'll save the rest of that for later, but that's essentially the documentary is, I mean, at least it's the killers in their own words. So there's that.
Right, fair enough.
Oh, okay.
All right, next up for me, we got Conclave. This is up on our main poster specifically for the cast, Dragon. This cast is stacked. We got Ralph Fiennes. Look for Ralph Fiennes to make a bid for Best Actor in this year's Oscar race. Man, he's absolutely fantastic. His character is very multi-layered. I really loved his character. We got Tucci. Tucci is a great standout supporting performance. I really think he kind of steals the show in all the moments he gets to shine. And then we get John Lithgow. And unfortunately, Dragon, John Lithgow, interesting character, not in nearly enough of the movie. I feel like John Lithgow, every time he pops up in something, it's like, oh, you're excited to see him, but you're almost like I'm waiting for him to get a role in a movie that's as juicy as his role on Dexter. I'm just waiting for that, and it has not happened yet, and it's frustrating. But the movie essentially involves the election of a new priest of the Catholic, or a new pope of the Catholic Church after the previous one died. They're all all these different popes, all these different like archbishops and priests and stuff from different sects of Catholicism come together in a single location. They're all quarantined, or not quarantined, but oh, what's the word? God damn it! Why am I blanking on the word here, Dragon?
Sequestered?
Yes, thank you. Oh my God, sequestered. Yeah. So they don't have phones, they don't have outside access, and essentially the whole thing is like one big political power struggle of who's going to get into office. Tucci's character is really, really compelling because he actively doesn't want it, but everyone around him, like Ray Fiennes specifically, knows he is the best person for the job, specifically because he doesn't actively want it. Because all the other people that are vying for it are basically in it for their own political agendas. And Tucci is the one person in the room where it's like he is the progressive person. Like, that's his whole character. It's like, you know, he doesn't want these other priests in power specifically because they're going to oppress people. And the push and pull dynamics, it's interesting. I didn't jive with this movie as much as I wanted to. There's a third act twist in the movie involving just the sexual orientation of one of the priests that I don't want to spoil much, but let's just say Dragon, they make a really big deal out of it when in this day and age it really isn't a big deal. And I was in the movie theater where I had a bunch of boomers in the audience. They were all like, "Oh my God, shocker. Wow." And it's like, yeah, that shit happens in biology, dude. Like, it's not that shocking. So that element of it, kind of like that, the quote unquote twist ending, honestly kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But between Ray Fiennes and Tucci, I mean, those are two just standout performances from the year, both of them. So they're absolutely the reason to watch the movie. Lithgow's good in what he has, but he just doesn't have much to work with compared to those two.
I really wish Tucci would get a starring role for like once. You know, I don't think he's ever gotten a starring role.
He's really good in the supporting role, though. I'm telling you.
I know. Man. I mean, you don't have to tell me.
I mean, roles in a while.
I still love him as Frank Dixon in The Terminal. I don't care what anyone says.
He is the best part of The Terminal. I'll give you that.
Right, he was so. That office scene between him and Tom Hanks was so good. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, and we all know what role we want him to play.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, you know. If you're going to give him a supporting role, that's where he's going to get his villain Oscar. If he's given that role. Actually, wait, what if that was his starring role? If it was like The Rise of Jeffrey Katzenberg?
I could see Katzenberg being a starring performance. I could see that.
There you go, Katzenberg.
All right. Okay, next up for you, Dragon.
Okay, here's a movie I really wish we actually... Here's the thing. As great as Conclave sounds, maybe not... Honestly, for Smile... I don't know, it would have been Conclave or Smile 2. This is a movie where, had I seen it before we assigned the poster images, I would have absolutely campaigned to put this one on the poster.
Dragon, the only reason I didn't watch this is it's definitely on my list, but at this point with movie memoirs, I kind of have this mentality where I watch so many movies in theaters and I'm always looking for stuff to catch up on. So if something catches my eye like this does, I'll usually just save it for the next month, which is what I'm doing with this. But definitely it's got my attention. I'm definitely excited to watch.
Okay, so Woman of the Hour. I meant to watch this earlier in the month, but I kind of held off, and I had like I've hit this thing with memoirs myself where I'm just, you know what? I don't care about the film festivals. Okay, I don't care if it was released the film festivals. It technically is released on like a 2023 film festival. Okay, this was publicly released this year, this month. It counts. You know, I don't care anymore.
Oh, I'm gonna have that frustrating thing with Anora because I'm hopefully going to see it this month. But it was released last month, but just very limited. So I guess we call it a catch up, right? Would you call it a catch up?
Don't hit me with those questions now, man. I don't want to think about that now.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, the point being, Woman of the Hour. This is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, and it's essentially, it's based on a true story. It sounds like a biopic, but I don't know how. Well, it might have been some liberties taken, but nothing crazy.
From what I've heard, it's pretty accurate.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when I say liberties taken, I don't mean like there's like inaccuracy. I just mean I don't know how much we gave her character dimension, which I don't know how accurate that is to the real girl. That's the one, you know. So all intents and purposes, I would call this a biopic, but it's a biopic like you've never seen one before, though. That's what's interesting about So this, so the critics love this. They nailed the POV. In her direction, she nailed POV, which is the most fantastic part of this movie. I mean, there's a menace in there's a very Ted Bundy-esque killer in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a real guy. And he's a real guy. Here's the mind-blowing thing about this guy, okay? This killer you've never heard of, and there's a reason for it, and they talk about it in this movie. And that's what's really is the fact that you have a guy who's like Ted Bundy, but he's like the underreported Ted Bundy you never heard about for a very chilling reason. And this movie's so artfully shot. What Anna Kendrick did in the direction of this movie, the directing and the editing is so freaking strong in this movie. It's got a very strong edit. It's ambitious too. It's an ambitious edit that you wonder, we're jumping around, and initially you're thinking, oh man, I think she's getting a little, might be getting a little fancy with the edit there, but it all pays off. It all pays off. It's an excellent film. It's again, it's like a killer biopic like you've never seen one before. It's basically this guy's like the dating. He's like, I think one of his nicknames is the dating game killer. Now, that's not to say he's like murdering people on the dating game, because I think we would have heard about that, But this is it's kind of this like a confluence of events that happen that have to be seen to be believed, and it's very much like. It's kind of a movie. Imagine like doing a movie that's very in line with kind of like the post Me Too era, but it's a period piece way before there was a Me Too thing. You feel it and you feel the message, but it's not like hammering you in over the head with it. It has something to say, but it's not spoon feeding it to you. It's just kind of
like how Black Klansman,
yeah.
I guess at the end it did kind of hammer it, but like really throughout most of that movie, it was like. The Black Lives Matter stuff was like kind of in the background at the end.
Yeah, until the very end. No, I'm with you. Until the very end, where Spike Lee just saying message, just like
screw subtlety. Which, let's face it, Spike Lee saying screw subtlety is pretty on brand.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm 100% with you with Black Klansman. It was such a great movie, and then we get to the end, where it's like, okay, look, Spike Lee, you already told us everything you needed to tell us in the movie, and then all the subtlety's gone. Where it's like, it's important stuff, but you're just kind of like, where's the artfulness, man? Anyway, so. Anna Kendrick, this is an amazing directorial debut, man. She's got to do more movies after this. This is worth it. You got to watch this. This is incredible.
No, I'm absolutely. It's definitely.
This is like end of the year list material, man. The movie material. This is great.
All right. Okay. Speaking of end of the year list material, Dragon. Yes, the Pharrell Williams Lego documentary is absolutely one of the best movies of the year.
Would you say it's a smash hit?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I genuinely loved it. I'm going to say this, and this is going to be controversial. Best Lego movie ever.
That is controversial.
Better than the Lego movie. I say that specifically because as much as I like the Lego movie, and I like it a lot, it does lean a little too heavily on the whole, like, oh, it's the Chosen One arc, like... Which I get that it's riffing on the Chosen One arc, but it's still like that's the one part of that movie that I've kind of not vibed with. With Piece by Piece, I genuinely think this movie's a game changer. Like I think it's a shame that this movie flopped because my God, I would love to see more documentaries in this style. And that's the thing is that this is by and large a documentary. I mean, like categorically, it is what it is. But the Lego elements of it, the editing, the color, the animation, just the fact, like once you hear Pharrell's story and once you see how he puts together music the way he does, it absolutely, like, this bonkers idea of having it be in Lego, it makes so much sense. Like, this movie would not work any other way. And I think there's so much in this movie that is just really memorable. The needle drop for Get Lucky happens at the absolute perfect time. It's like a wonderful sequence. I mean, just all around, this movie just it is kind of like just a pretty standard, like, this is how he got famous. This is the struggles that he went through once he got famous. He goes through the period of time where he's kind of got an ego and he's kind of letting the studio system and the money control him, and then he has to get out of it. It's a pretty standard kind of like rock star rise and fall and rise again sort of story.
Did they talk about his Illumination stuff?
Yes, actually, yes. Yeah.
Good.
There's a cameo by some very demented-looking Lego minions.
Nice.
And my favorite element is they have Kendrick Lamar in this movie, and is part of the Black Lives Matter protests.
Hey.
Dragon, seeing Black Lives Matter protests depicted in Lego form, genuinely one of the most surreal and honestly kind of thrilling moments I've had in the movie theater all year. It's just not something I ever would have expected out of a Lego movie, but my God, it works.
Isn't it crazy how, we have documentaries and Lego, and we're gonna soon have biopics done with monkeys. They're done with chimps.
Oh God.
Did you see the Robbie Williams thing?
Kind of.
What I'm saying isn't it just kind of crazy? That's where we're at now in terms of our our documentary and kind of frame things.
They have a Snoop Dogg cameo, and let's just say they think of a really, really PG way to depict weed in this movie, and it's fucking hilarious.
Okay, is it actually just like a Lego, like the leaf of the leaves?
No. I don't even want to give away what it is, Dragon. You're gonna have to watch the movie, but it's the most pleasant, like PG version of depicting weed smoking. It's fucking awesome. So this is in my top 10 of the year. I mean, I genuinely think that this movie is a game changer. Like, I genuinely, like... I'll say this. I dare the Academy to not fucking nominate this thing for Best Documentary. I dare them. They're not going to, but my God, them not is just, like, going to be further proof that category is a sham. Because, like I said, I genuinely think that this movie pushes the boundaries of what a documentary can and should be. And I fucking love it. Genuinely love it. And I will say this movie has affected me so much. It is legitimately like gotten me to look at pop music, a genre of music that I've notoriously been pretty stuffy about. It's genuinely gotten me to look at it in a new way. Like, I'm listening to, I'm going through and I'm listening to like full albums by the artists depicted in this movie, and I'm loving it. Like, I think that the visuals and the way that it represents music through the visuals and through the color, I mean, this thing's just a slam dunk. And like I said, I think it's a shame that it flopped. So yeah, highly recommend that. It is still in theaters. It's still around. I highly, highly recommend it if you could get a chance to see it. All right. Also, Dragon, just so you know, I have one extra movie at the end here that both of them will go by pretty fast, but okay. Go ahead and tell us about Martha.
Yeah, let me tell you about Bruce Wayne's worst.
Why did you say that name?
Well, I'll tell you why. So, I was trying to bolster my list for this month, and I was kind of looking around. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like that thing where you're scrolling past, and it's like, well, there's that one, but I don't know if I'm gonna get to it. It's like, oh, wait, I need a movie. Mm-hmm. You go back, it's like, well, I want to watch the movie about Martha Stewart. It's like, okay, what the heck? I'll give it a watch. So I gave it a watch, and so this is basically kind of a rise and fall and rise again documentary about Martha Stewart, and it is more interesting than they give it credit for.
You know, the thing that blows me away about Martha Stewart
is that she's friends with Snoop Dogg.
I mean, yes, but no, just the fact that that woman is in her mid-80s and she looks incredible.
Oh, absolutely. God, yeah. Yes, she does. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so here,
genuinely one of the best aged women in all of like, not film, but like, you know, the entertainment business.
Well, she knows all the world secrets of like aging, cooking.
And exactly.
Anyway, so here's the thing. The sell for this is that we basically learn that Martha Stewart, she's it's basically the struggles of a perfectionist. That's essentially what this movie is. It's the idea, like, she's very much, we get the origin for why, it was very much like trying to please her father. She kind of struggled to, be a perfectionist in his very simplistic kind of like way of seeing life in the 50s, I think. And, she was she's very hypocritical, and that's what's really interesting about this. There's like a lot of unreliable narrator thing. There's this whole thing where like her husband had an affair, but she cheated on him first, but she refuses to acknowledge it. It's like cheating, and it's like it's very interesting just seeing. It's a very kind of raw interview in that way. Like she's very much in denial and stuff. Anyway, so I don't know. It's just impressive how she had this kind of embarrassing setback with like insider trading, and then she bounced back from it in a big way, and it's worth a watch. I'd say if you have nothing going on, this is like I need something to keep busy. I would say watch Martha.
Put that on the poster. Ringing endorsement. All right.
It's not bad. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a market for Martha Stewart out there, for the average Joe. You know what I'm going to watch?
All I know is that she's got a lot of restaurants in Vegas.
Okay.
Anyways, all right. Okay, so I'm going to crack out two of these really quick. One I forgot to send you. So first off, we got The Apprentice. I'll keep this very short, Dragon. I'll keep this very short. Sebastian Stan absolutely disappears into the role. I continue to be super impressed with him. I think he's one of the best actors that we have as far as just being a chameleon. But Jeremy Strong is the reason to watch this movie. Trump has he's the central focus, but Jeremy Strong has the arc. And I really, really like Jeremy Strong in this movie in a post-Succession role. It's the kind of meaty role that I wish that someone like a Lithgow would get. And honestly, I think the movie does a really good job of staying apolitical. If it's not necessarily apolitical, it's definitely like it's showing Trump for being a monster, but he's kind of a monster in the business sense. Like we don't really get into the political stuff at all. The most we get is like him being interviewed by Oprah, like, Oprah, please, I would never run in politics. That's not my world, So God forbid what happens on Tuesday. Jesus Christ, I am holding my breath not to get too political about it. But I think this movie works for what it's trying to do. Honestly, I don't really think it's going to like move the needle one way or another politically, but it's a good watch, Dragon. I feel about as good about it as you do about the Martha Stewart thing. It's like, yeah, it's interesting, If it pops up on Netflix and you're looking for a couple really good performances, it's one to watch. Okay, and then the other one I want to highlight is it's called We Live in Time, and this stars Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, and it's a romance movie. It's told in a non-linear order. It jumps around in time, hence the title. We're seeing stuff from it's about a couple, a husband and wife. We're seeing stuff. Well, no, not technically husband and wife. That's actually a big plot point that they don't get married. Spoiler. But we're kind of jumping around from the start of their relationship, the middle of the relationship. It's all, it's a fun, non-linear times. I think Andrew Garfield in particular carries this movie for me personally. I know Peregrine feels the opposite way. I know he's more into Florence Pugh's performance. For me, Andrew Garfield is kind of like, he's got this sort of like lost puppy dog quality to him where he's like adorably pathetic in this movie. And I don't know. It's just something about it is really compelling for me. Florence Pugh, Dragon. Florence Pugh has this side plot where essentially with her character, this isn't a spoiler. It happens in the first few minutes of the movie. Her character has already dealt with terminal cancer. It was in remission, and then when the movie starts, it's back, and so she's having to deal with like how she wants to proceed. Does she want to like essentially it's a question of like, does she want the last years of her life, the last moments of her life to be really meaningful, or does she want it to be a struggle to try and go through the chemo and all that? And she chooses the meaningful thing, but she does it in the most absolutely fucking selfish way she possibly could, where she's her character is like a culinary chef, like the bear style chef, like the phrase "yes chef" gets thrown around so much it legitimately gives me PTSD flashbacks. Bear, like that status. And so she enters a culinary competition, but Dragon, she does it without telling Andrew Garfield. And so she's just disappearing for days at a time at this competition. And Andrew Garfield does not know what she's doing. And her character is so fucking selfish. And I get that she's dying. I get that she's living out her dream. I get that. Communicate with your significant goddamn other. Communication. It's Dragon, the choice that she makes in this movie just legitimately pisses me off. And the movie never resolves it either. It's, oh my God. All right.
You know, real quick, I just want to mention this because I haven't seen this movie, but in the marketing for this movie, Andrew Garfield, he was on Sesame Street and he had this like very moving conversation with Elmo that just like seriously rocked me to my core.
I saw that. Yeah.
How amazing was that?
No, Andrew Garfield is the reason to watch this. I genuinely kind of hated Florence Pugh's character. But no, you're right. It is that was a really good moment with Garfield. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, moving on. Gonna have to power through some of this stuff quicker than we probably should. But all right, Dragon, let's talk Agatha all along. I mean, I just want to start by saying, like, I don't know if you agree, but for me, I think this is the best MCU show we've gotten. I mean, this for
period?
me, period. This to me stuck to landing every episode. Really, you know what I really like about this show is that it actually feels like a TV show. It's very episodic. Each episode really stands on its own. I really love the arc between Agatha and quote unquote teen, in case people don't know the reveal regarding that character. The final episode I thought was just a fucking slam dunk. I like just that final reveal, how everything came together, the origin of the road, the song, and how what Agatha was actually doing in the first episode. I mean, all that stuff. Like I genuinely want to go back and rewatch this show. And Dragon, I've never said that about any Disney Plus Marvel show ever.
Yeah, it's true. I'm really shocked you like this show as much as you do, especially given how, like, I think myself and a lot of other people, including you, the marketing didn't do this show any favors.
No, it did not. It did not. No. But I don't know, man. I think the fact that this show is as episodic as it is really does a lot of heavy lifting. The fact that every episode really stands out as its own thing.
So here's what I come down on. So the first two episodes sold me on. So I was with you like from the beginning. It was like the first episodes. Like I went into this with no expectations. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. It's something to watch. Because again, this was honestly initially I had the thing where like, is this going to be the first MCU thing I avoid? And I didn't do it. I watched the first two episodes to give it a shot. And I was like, man, those first two episodes did sell me, kind of like WandaVision did. And that's when I kind of sunk in. And, well, it's basically a WandaVision continuation.
It's a WandaVision sequel, and I'm totally down for that.
And, of course, I think what helped, too, is that the first two episodes that were really good were directed by the showrunner from WandaVision. So that probably helped. I will say this. Episodes 4 and 5, they dragged for me a little bit plot-wise. A little bit. Mainly 4.
I feel that because yeah, once you get into 6, you get into the Billy backstory. Oh, sorry, spoiler. But yeah, and then it's kind of off to the races from there. Episode 7 is awesome.
Yeah. So the penultimate. Here's the thing. It also feels like maybe the penultimate episode could have been simplified just a little bit. Just in terms of like it bleeds into the last episode really well, but just getting there is like,
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I like Aubrey Plaza. I wish she had a little bit more to do, considering how important her character was.
Here's the thing, without saying what it is, what we reveal her character to be, I love how we visualized it, and it does make me excited if she were to return in a bigger role.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so here's the thing. So I was on the fence about the reveal of who Teen was, but because here's the thing, it was not a secret going into the show. Everyone like predicted exactly who
yeah, right.
And I was like, here's the thing, it wasn't that I was like, I mean, sure, but it makes me wonder, like, why would he be in this show? And apparently in the comics, that's essentially what Teen's character did, kind of like that's kind of a firm adaptation of like
Teen in the comics.
Well, no, not Teen. I'm dancing around.
Okay.
They didn't call him Teen. That was like the sigil thing for the show. But like, no, it's the fact that his character, who he actually is, that's what they did with him when they introduced him in the comic, where he was, what happened to him, the way he came back, essentially was how that happened.
And by the way, I think it's a really heady, really interesting, like almost like Nolan level kind of idea for how he comes back. I really liked it.
Yeah, so Catherine Hahn, she's great. Here's the thing. The problem for me is that the other Coven members, they kind of petered out until again we kind of got closer to 6 onward. We had like the big, our big the fortune teller, which we got to her episode, which was really good.
Which, by the way, that actress not really famous in film circles, but a legend on Broadway.
Well, yeah. So I know she was like a stage actor, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
no, she's not just. I'm saying she's like the stage actor, Dragon.
So here's the thing. I really like the end. I like where we end at with Agatha, especially with how we visualize Agatha. Without getting into it, what we do with Agatha at the end of this season is what we do with her in the comic, by the way, and that's really cool. How it's like you didn't think about it. It's like, oh my god, yeah, we do that with her. So that makes all the sense in the world that we did that with her.
Again, kind of like spoiler alert, folks, for the next minute or so with this show, just in case. Pretty much literally everyone besides Teen dies. Yeah. And they have the balls to like actually stick to that. Oh wait, I'm sorry. The other lady doesn't die, right?
I know who you mean.
Yeah.
The potion.
Pretty much everyone else, man. Like everyone else. And I love the fact that like we stick to our guns on that. There's no bullshit resurrection. Like, no, they are gone. I really like that. Yeah.
So I like our ending, but it feels unfinished. However, it feels like we are going to be. I suspect we're going to be bridging into Vision Quest with this. I have a feeling that Vision Quest is going to be how we find the other team.
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. But I do like the fact that like we've got essentially like a trilogy of shows in this kind of like pocket of the MCU.
So I suspect that's what the plan is. So while this does feel unfinished, I mean, here's the thing: we have like an ending, but it's not like you want to find the other team. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to get that answer in Vision Quest. That's what I suspect. And if that happens, I think that's a good move in terms of like it's basically what you're saying. It's a trilogy. It's an unofficial trilogy of sorts. Right. There. Anyway, so again, the reveal of the road's great. I think it took a little time for me for it to sink in, but I think it works absolutely when you really kind of realize what they're going for with it and how it connects to WandaVision. Like that's great. So it's a fun series, but I think here's the thing: I think it's a fun series. I think it could have been condensed because yet again we're doing 9 episodes where it feels like at the very least maybe 8. Very least. Okay.
Right. Okay, next up, Only Murder season 4. I actually did like how this season wrapped up.
I knew it.
But Dragon, it's time. Season 5 has got to be the last one, man. I mean,
I concur.
This show has devolved into such a formulaic, like it literally feels like every season at this point they're going through the same beats, and it's just kind of lost its magic at this point, man. I feel like the show is very much diminishing returns at this point. Season 4 has some good stuff in it. I definitely think the best stuff, I agree with you, is just Steve Martin getting to play dramatic, and then also just seeing some of Saz's backstory.
Yeah.
I love the payoff of the trampoline park stuff. But man, even so, this is definitely the weakest season so far. I think the cameos in this season are by far the most forced. Dragon, the actor, we did not need the actors. We did not need Eva Longoria, freaking Eugene. Like, I love Eugene Levy. We didn't need him. We didn't need Galifianakis. We didn't need the fact that those 3 have as much screen time as they do is fucking ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah.
The apartment crew, like, at this point, it just kind of feels like they're just throwing in, these names like Richard Kind and Kumail Nanjiani, like, just because we're filling out the comedian Rolodex at this point, right?
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there on one point. There. Okay, there's never a reason not to use Richard Kind. Okay, you take that back.
Dragon, I feel like this is the most like stereotypical Richard Kind role that I've ever seen him in, though. It was,
but he's in everything. We got to put him in. Okay, we need Richard Kind.
Hey, but look, I'm saying compared to like compared to the cameos in season 3, compared to how we use goddamn Matthew Broderick, like the cameos in this are nothing.
No, I agree with that. There's one fun cameo with a certain director. I'll give you that. You gotta.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anyway, so the inciting incident of this season with
although I will say, like, honestly, I hate to say this, Oliver has gotten a little bit insufferable.
Really? What makes you say insufferable?
I really didn't like the whole like run. I don't know, man. I just feel like they've turned up Oliver's quirks and they've turned them up to 11. Well, at the same time, I feel like they've very much gotten away from like the sides of his character that make him sympathetic. Like Will just has like he's just a pop-up cameo at the wedding at the end. Like he has like I know Will's not really been the most dynamic character on the show, but he grounds Martin Short to a certain extent. I don't know. I just feel like it's just off. Everything just feels off. The shit. Dragon, he is lucky that he is still with Meryl Streep by the end of this series, considering the bullshit he was pulling in the first half. I'll say that much.
So, okay, just long story short, when I look at season 4, again, the inciting incident with Zaz's death, that's very strong. It brings out the dramatic muscles on Steve Martin, like we've kind of gone over. I think it really helps that we liked Saz. We love Jane Lynch. We like the Saz character. So it was a murder that we very much cared about and we wanted to solve, and we were invested in solving. The problem is, the longer the show goes on, it's the danger of repeating themselves, and also what we kind of deal with this season very literally is self-parody, that's why we have Oliver being as exaggerated as he is, even Charles to a degree. It's like everyone's becoming self-parodies of themselves and coming to grips with that. And unless the next season acknowledges what do we do after learning this self-parody, like after we self-reflect via the self-parody literalized, what do we do about it? If we don't bring it to a close in 5, it's like the Cobra Kai thing. We got to bring it to a close.
Also, it also feels like the podcast itself has become such an afterthought.
Yeah.
Like literally the only time we even really see the podcast is like they're wrapping up the outro for it. Like each season, the podcast is just like, obviously season 2, the podcast was pretty prominent, but after that, seasons 3 and 4, the podcast just might as well just not even be a factor.
It seems to me the struggle this season really is, it's like we go to Hollywood versus stay in New York to solve the murder.
I wish we would have stayed in Hollywood, frankly.
That's the thing.
That would have been a nice change of pace.
But that's the struggle of the series premise of it has to be a murder in the building. What I think they should have done is it's a murder on the set of the building in Hollywood. So it's still a murder in the building, but it's over there.
Right.
So it's like still the Arconia, but it's the set of the Arconia.
And I gotta say, the stopover at Melissa McCarthy's place, genuinely probably my least favorite episode of the whole show.
So that's insane. So it's the Westies, the Long Island episode where they went to Long Island, and the brother sisters. Those.
Oh, the brother sisters. Oh God. Oh, just a perfect example of how this show is kind of up its own ass when it comes to the comedy.
So that's the thing. That's where we're getting into the iffy territory there. However, again, I do love Richard Kind. I think he kind of ultimately, I think he kind of slowly but surely turned this around on the Westies, which I can appreciate. Again, problem
I just
though.
Like the resolution where it's like, see, we're not killers.
Yeah.
Like I like how through the whole thing the Westies were very pleasant about the whole situation.
Yeah. So here's the thing: the killer itself, it was kind of like a moment of like, really, that person? That's the killer? Really?
I just like that it's a guy this time, frankly.
Well, sure, but still, I'm just saying, like, of all the people, really, that's the killer.
I think they did a good job with the flashback episode, though.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was one of the better killer reveals, honestly.
It's not so much the reveal. It's just more of like, okay, so
just the choice of the character. Yeah,
it's that character.
I just think logically, it makes more sense than some of the other ones. Like Poppy, I still don't really know what was going through her head there. That really didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I did really love. I love when Charles, he had like Evil Longoria's multi-tool, and he's like wielding it like a gun.
Yes,
that was so funny.
The climax was really good, like the windowsill stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay, next up we got. Okay, tell me about Mr. McMahon.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think,
this is the Ed McMahon documentary, right? Yeah.
well, it's not Ed McMahon, it's Vince McMahon.
Oh God, I'm sorry. Okay.
I can understand the misconception there, but no,
Right,
no way is Ed McMahon that exciting, Tiki. I'm sad.
right.
I like him, but no. Anyway, so Mr. McMahon is the docu-series I think you should watch. It's about Vince McMahon, the wrestler, the guy who founded the WWE.
Uh-huh.
So
I
yeah,
mean, I'm not into wrestling at all. You still think I'd like it?
well, that's the thing. Neither am I. I'm not a
Uh-huh.
wrestling guy, but I mean, we both are we're wrestling adjacent via Hulk Hogan at times, like historically, But
I really like the Iron Claw from last year. I thought
that's
that
what
movie really delivered.
I mean. That plus you had the what was that movie with Florence Pugh in it?
Oh yeah, Fighting with My Family. That was
Fighting
that
My
was the first
Family.
time I discovered Florence Pugh.
So this is what I'm getting at here. This is it's basically the purview of from the periphery of like the wrestling world. I've enjoyed via like the wrestling documentaries here and there, like Andre the Giant. We kind of dip a toe into the wrestling world, and we know
Uh-huh.
a little bit about it. And anywhere you go between Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant or whoever, The Rock or whoever you got, Vince McMahon is always the figure that the name Vince McMahon if you've ever like dipped a toe into the wrestling world, because he is synonymous with the brands of all the brands and everything. Because the man's very much he's a John Peters of a character.
Right.
He's a key figure, so I was already instantly sold. Okay, if there's any wrestling documentary I want to know about this guy, because he's always there and he's like bigger than life. And this is well done, and it makes the most of the episode count. I think it's like 6 episodes. Because there's a big development of like the brand and all the highs and pitfalls of the wrestling industry. Like the industry has changed a lot. And Tiki, the best way I can sell this on you is that it's kind of like, I want to be clear, it's not as like Amadeus levels of perfection as this. However, the way it's framed, there is a happy, joy component to this documentary because Vince McMahon is a controversial figure these days.
Sure.
And stuff has happened, and this is like the way they frame it at the top of every episode is like this. All these interviews were gotten right before the news broke. So it's mired in controversy, and through the wrestling industry, you see like all these moments of like there was like the steroid controversy, and there's like death happening in the ring, and then there's like bringing in his family, and the big sell point of this thing is like it's called Mr. McMahon because he had an in persona wrestling character called Mr. McMahon, which basically is him as like the greedy corporate guy, and then there's him. So it's basically like the fine line between the two, never the twain should meet kind of a thing, like Vince McMahon versus Mr. McMahon, and it's really interesting. It was a good watch.
Okay, nice. All right, and finally for TV, tell us about oh god, okay, fucking Melendez brothers. All right,
Monster, the Lyle and Eric Melendez.
Does it really? Do they? Is the monster thing? Is that like literally like another in the series of like?
Yeah, so
so
let me say that's the thing. So they announced that it's a Monster is an anthology series done by Ryan Murphy.
No, dude, no, Dragon, I refuse that ownership, dude. That dude is problematic as fuck. I refuse that ownership. He is not my child, Dragon.
I don't know.
I'm leaving that child at the fucking orphanage.
Historically, you've hyped up Ryan Murphy a lot.
For what?
Let's see. Over the years, you've talked about.
Honestly, for what?
Weren't you into American Horror Story?
No, I've never watched American Horror Story in my life.
Are you sure? Because
yes,
I know you brought that up before, though.
No, I have never watched a single episode of American Horror Story, Dragon. I guarantee you.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
Didn't he do another thing too aside from American Horror Story?
He did Glee, but I'm not into that either.
I could have sworn you mentioned you liked American Horror Story, but okay.
You would think I would, but no, it's not something I ever got into.
All right, well, okay. Point being, Ryan Murphy. So yeah, this is an anthology thing where apparently it's already been approved for another iteration. But so again, it's fitting into this weird cycle of on an annual basis, Netflix is glorifying serial killers and marketing off them.
Great.
And like Dahmer's one thing, we did Dahmer, now we're doing the Melendez resident. Next year, we're getting Ed Gein, the original killer.
Oh boy. Oh man, can't wait for that.
So Anyway, so this is basically they're it's not as good as Dahmer. I'm going to say that right out the gate. Okay, so but it's not as clear cut a story as
Dad,
Dahmer.
our show's still the best one, Dad. Sorry.
All right. Anyway, so again, ethically questionable as it may be, this again, it's a messier story to tell versus the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Jeffrey Dahmer's clear cut guy literally embodies the monster thing. The Melendez brothers, I keep saying Melendez because I keep thinking of someone better. I keep thinking of Bill Melendez, but
Right, yeah.
The Menendez brothers, it's a messier story, messy in all senses of the word, in terms of like just the graphicness of the crime and just the fact that there's a lot of he said, she said involved in the crime. It's not as good as Dahmer. There's an unreliable narrator aspect of the story, which is interesting. The problem is the best part of this show is when we get to the trial. It's like the opposite of the Joker movie, oddly enough. The trial stuff is the best part of this series. We don't get to that until like the last 2 episodes of the show.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it is the build up. We see the crime, and then we just it's trial prep for the rest of it. So, again, I'm not going to say it's not well done in terms of the performances and just the replication of the events, but it's just not really. You're not as hooked there. It's not as it's just like the Menendez brothers are not nearly as like it's not like looking at pure evil and just kind of interpreting pure evil.
Right.
This is more a thing of like the Menendez brothers they claim that there's like this chilling scene. There's a whole episode, TIki. I'm not joking about this. There's like an episode, I think it's like episode 5, where you have one of the Menendez brothers, like it's literally him sitting in front of his lawyer, just literally it's like pretty much like a 40-minute monologue talking about his sexual abuse.
Oh God.
That's what I'm saying. So this is what I'm talking about, where it's not really as it's definitely, I wouldn't call it watchable in the sense of, oh boy, I can't wait to binge that again.
Right.
Nathan Lane is in this, and he has a really memorable moment in the show where he hears that testimony that the Menendez brothers give, and he's really rocked to his core about it. It's a really good scene. I'll give you that. They have this gag where like getting dimes in prison to make phone calls because it's set in the early 90s, late 80s, kind of the early 90s, I should say.
Uh-huh.
The way in which dimes is like commerce in prison is really funny. It's like, look, I have $100. These guys are rich. Like, I have $100 here. Okay, I can't give you $100 for like a roll of dimes.
Right.
Anyway, so it's interesting how they really got screwed on the second trial. That I had no idea about, like how horribly. And that's to me, that's the intrigue of the Menendez brothers, where it's that. The fact is, you want to come down on any way you want, but then you see they really got screwed on that second trial. So now, like ethically, it's like I can't say they got a fair trial, and that's what frustrates me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's again not as good as Dahmer. It was an attempt was made, but it's really weird and icky. It's an icky show, man. I'm just gonna say it's icky.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, it's icky. I don't think you'd enjoy it as much. It was not as memeable as Dahmer.
Right. Okay, and that's the important thing with these serial killer shows, right?
They got to be marketable, otherwise, how else we're gonna get these campaigns of release them?
All right, let's go ahead and speed run some of this catch up. Did you watch Once Upon a Time in the West for the same reason I did?
No.
You just had already seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I watched it specifically because it was the literally like the first moments of Only Murder season 4 were hyping it up, and I was like, that sounds like a really good movie. And Drake, this is like Westerns aren't by and large really my thing. There's actually going to be another Western on my catch up that I resonated with a lot more, but this one's really good. The opening sequence that Steve Martin talks about in Only Murders, where it's like literally like a half hour of like drawn out like environmental kind of tension building, that's the best stuff in the movie. The movie kind of by and large becomes kind of like a pretty standard like revenge story, which is fine. I didn't love it, but it does have a lot of really good cinematography, atmosphere. And the kind of tension building from the first scene is kind of prevalent throughout, although the first scene is definitely the most prominent example of that. So overall, a good Western, but again, not really my genre. So I respect it more than I actively like it. But it's still a meaningful watch for sure. It's a classic. All right. Also, just because we're past TV here, I'm gonna shout out Teddy. He's saying, "I'm rewatching Psych. Funny show. One of the best Sherlock Holmes riffs." I haven't seen Psych specifically because it's one of those shows where it's like it's got so many seasons. I'm kind of like intimidated to start, but I don't know. Maybe I should look.
Now our boy's in that show though.
Not Ryan Murphy, I hope.
No, that's your boy. That's not our boy. No, Timothy Munson.
Oh, Munson's in it. Oh, okay.
Sure, that was the big thing he did before Gallivant, Tiki. That
I'll
was like
look into that then.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a dragon.
Now, admittedly, he's not as flamboyant as
yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So tell us about Superman.
Yeah, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I felt duty bound to once they gave this a wide release. I felt duty bound to, you know what, I gotta give it my all. I gotta put a good faith effort into trying to see this thing versus waiting for it to come on Max, which has taken forever, by the way.
I know it.
But this I saw it. It's a phenomenal and moving documentary, like possibly top 5 material for this year for me. I love this thing so much. The only regrets I have with this thing, I really wish they showed the Smallville episode that he appeared on in the documentary.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I'm kind of surprised they didn't, because like even I knew about that.
There are 2 things that didn't make in the documentary I really wish we even just paid lip service to. The Smallville appearance, which was very meaningful, and the one that really surprised me, given how much Robin Williams factored into it, Everyone's Hero didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the last things.
Oh, right.
He directed he was the director on an animated film. Anyway,
one of those time things.
No, sure. I mean, I get that. Look, Everyone's Hero, I get. Yeah, it's probably why we would cut it. But Smallville, though, that was a big deal, though.
Smallville, I'm shocked they cut. Yeah, I agree there.
Because that was him returning to that role in a sense, Anyway, so this is it's an inspiring story of how an actor becomes a symbol, and like the character, like the character he played, and it's just this. It's this very. What really got me was how they intercut the Rear Window stuff, and just like how literally breathtaking it was, like just how horrific, and just like the tension of like the I forget what the term was, but it was like the. Basically, when the tube falls off in the moment of panic, the popping kind of a thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
The way the tension mounts for that was shocking to me, and the fact that they had that footage available with Rear Window really made me want to go back to the Rear Window remake. I never saw him in the Rear Window remake, so that's that was very interesting. This movie is just very well put together. Seeing it on the big screen is really cool too. Just exploring the legacy through his kids was a really classy move that not a lot of documentaries, I think, would do the way they did, like from the get-go. Like that, I think they knew they had something really cinematic here, and I think they really knew like this is a story people need to know, they need to see, they need to like. We've paid lip service to Christopher Reeve all the time, and in the past, the character of Superman was such a great debt of gratitude towards him, but really seeing the impact that the actor and the character kind of had on each other, I think was really something and really inspiring. And I think I'll tell you, man, it'll leave you emotionally gutted in the theater though when you see this movie. It is like it'll strike.
Dude, the Robin Williams eulogy. I mean, that's what really got me, man. That shit destroyed me.
I mean, what gets me is like his kids talking about like the moment, like talking like when they got the call. Like that was, to me, that's what gutted me. And like that,
sure.
I think it's Will Reeves. Like Will Reeves at the very end, like saying, I've lost everything. It's like God, it's still this movie though. This to me is like the same way you feel about Piece by Piece. This is like, come on, Academy. He helped people walk. Like, come on. He's like,
I think I'm a little bit more like on board with Piece by Piece just because this is a little bit more. It's great, but it's a little bit more conventional. piece
But I
by
mean,
piece genuinely feels like a game changer.
but
Like it's
conventional or no, it's like if this isn't gonna like this again, this is the whole like "won't you be my neighbor" thing. Where
right,
it's like,
right.
come
No, yeah,
on, what more do you want?
exactly,
He
exactly.
needs like what do you need? Maniacs, God.
Okay, I don't have much to say about this next one. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I watched this because I went to Not Scary Farm. As you might know, Elvira was a headliner at Not Scary Farm for 20 years, including the final year, which I saw her in, which was 2017. I actually caught her there. So Mistress of the Dark, obviously, it's kind of like her feature film debut after the public access stuff that she did. I think this movie's all right. I didn't grow up with it, so I don't have any nostalgia for it. So, like, I definitely think some of the humor is a little dated. It's very sitcom-y. Did you know that Elvira had a sitcom pilot out there?
I didn't know about the pilot. No,
Like, I actually think Elvira would work better as a sitcom.
I know she had aspirations to do more stuff like that. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Because the thing with this pilot is that it was all about like she had a long lost niece who was like a very like hoity-toity like religious girl, and it was kind of like an odd couple pairing. Like the niece like went to town to find her, and it was like, oh boy, how is Elvira gonna interact with this church girl? And I think that would have been a fun premise. But this movie, it's very much kind of the standard like Elvira gets inherits a house. There's a big bad businessman relative who wants the house, and it's kind of the push and pull. It's a very standard movie. I mean, Cassandra Peterson is great. She's always got chemistry. She's always likable. It's just kind of like, for me, I feel like I really wish I would have grown up with this movie. I would probably like it more. I thought this was just okay. It was fine. It definitely whet my appetite for Scary Farm, so I'll give it that much.
well, you know what you should do too. You should watch. Michael Rosenbaum did an interview with her recently, like last week.
Oh
Recently.
yeah, really?
Yeah, Cassandra Peterson. Yeah, you should
Oh,
watch it.
nice, nice. All right, okay. Mystery movie Dragon. What do you got?
Okay, mystery movie, Wolves.
Oh, you son of a bitch! All right, I'm guessing it's just okay.
So I mean, look, I love fixers, man. I love collectively, we love Mike Ehrmantraut. We love Mike. Ray Donovan. I'm a sucker for fixers. So I thought this was really fun. It was a very solid sell of a movie already, and I knew that from the trailer at least. Just the fact that we have like two Mr. Wolf-esque characters, like from Pulp Fiction, buddy movie. John Watts, yeah, he did a great job with it. Clooney, I loved it.
You still need to see Cop Car, man. I will never stop bugging you about that. Cop Car is the closest thing we're going to get to an MCU director doing Albuquerque verse stuff.
Well, we also kind of have this, Tiki, but
Well, yeah, okay. I haven't seen this movie yet, but anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Admittedly, in terms of like there's more car chases than we would have in the Albuquerque verse, so probably you're probably still right. But anyway, the point being, I love an aged George Clooney. I love the older George Clooney is like I think we get a lot of really. I don't know why. It's like ever since I saw Tomorrowland, I really like an aged George Clooney. I think he kind of has gotten into kind of his best stuff here. So I love him. Just like the chemistry he has with Brad Pitt's very smooth here. It's the luggage cart trick is awesome. My only issue with this film is this. Okay, so we have a great setup, great premise. Act one is iron tight. Like John Watts firing all cylinders. Act one. The film, it ends with here's the thing. There's a twist at the end that feels like it doesn't feel satisfying to me when it should. Where it feels like, okay, like there's a suspicion that something's off and we reveal what's off, but it just still feels like we're just throwing dialogue at the screen here. And it feels like, why do we have to explain, kind of our moment here, without saying what it is? Like, why do we have to explain what's about to happen here? Why can't it just happen? And we leave it a little ambiguous and have like a good kind of one and done ending where they've announced there's a sequel plan for this movie way ahead of it. So we know there's, wait, what?
That's not going to happen.
Okay, so it's not going to happen anymore.
I doubt it. I mean, considering that they literally dumped this movie onto Apple TV Plus at the last minute, I doubt a sequel is going to happen.
Well, I mean, I thought the thing was like they announced like the sequel's going to happen even despite that, though.
You might be right, but I don't know.
Okay, well, my point is,
I mean, what they did very much feels indicative of like, they don't have faith in this as a franchise.
okay, well, regardless, it feels. Here's the thing: it feels weird that they would the way the movie ends tease up that there may or may not be a sequel. Uh, it plays like it's a one-off, but it feels like, if we were gonna just end it there, why couldn't we just say like, okay, one way or another, this. Sorry, I'm trying. I thought you had seen this. That's the thing. That's why I'm trying not to.
No, how would I see this? You know my issues with Apple TV.
Well, yeah, but I remember you saying I can't wait to see Wolves like nonstop, and you had like it came out last month.
Yeah, that was Dragon. That was when it was going to go in theaters.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah, look, I'm now seeing the folly in that lot. Right. All right. It's all right.
It's all good.
Okay, the point being, look, the end again. Aside from the ending, which just feels like we had a decent ending there, but then we had to throw like a little bit of a conspiracy curveball at you. It was like I didn't need that conspiracy curve. Had that not been in there, I'd say we have a really solid film.
Uh-huh.
But John Watts did a good job with this. He really did. There's a nice moment there, but towards the end, just until we get that weird conspiracy curveball thing.
All right. Okay, so next up for me, we got Twister. This was a last-minute flashback cinema movie for me, and I gotta tell you, man, this is the kind of shit that like flashback cinema stuff is made for. Like, have I vented to you about the fact that my flashback cinema likes to go back to the well of like, hey guys, we're doing all 7 Harry Potter movies for the next 7 weeks.
Maybe once you've mentioned. I know you've mentioned the Harry Potter.
Crazy Dragon. They go through those damn Potter movies like at least twice a year, and it's just like I wish that they do a movie like this every time, because this is genuinely like, especially if I haven't actually seen the movie, it's a treat. It's a genuine treat. So yeah, I really like Twisters from this year, but watching this, I mean, I think this movie kind of blows Twisters out of the water. I really love the dynamic between Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. I really love their arc. I love how this movie kind of takes place over just the course of like a couple days, and just the simplicity of like Bill Paxton at the start of the movie is just going to Helen Hunt to sign the divorce papers. That's all he wants, is for her to sign the divorce papers. And they go off on this crazy adventure chasing tornadoes and like the push and pull there. I really like that. It's kind of like kind of reminds me of the Thin Man movies, the Nick and Nora movies from back in the day. Let's see what else. Philip Seymour Hoffman in an early role is very, very fun here. Just really good cast all around. What I like about both this and Twisters is the fact that it's got a large ensemble cast, and a lot of the characters don't have a lot to do, but they all have their standout moments. I really love the music here. I think the score in this movie is great. I think the practical effects are genuinely pretty awe-inspiring. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly genuinely like, I'm sure I've probably caught bits and pieces of this on cable back in the day when I was a kid. I'm genuinely surprised. Like, this feels like the type of movie, like, in the same vein of the Jurassic Park, where if I watched it as a kid, I think it would have really thrilled me. Like, I'm genuinely surprised I hadn't seen it as when I was a kid. So yeah, definitely a fun watch. Really good fun at the fun afternoon at the movies for a flashback cinema. Very worthy flashback cinema watch. All right, Lisa Frankenstein Dragon. Kind of curious how you're going to feel about this one. I could see you go either way.
So, obviously, I have an affinity for Frankenstein. I do. And this is Zelda Williams' directorial debut.
But it's also a Diablo Cody script, and I'm not a huge Diablo Cody fan.
So I think it's kind of a fun update on the mythos. It took a bit to get into it, though. It's not like an instant sell. Initially, I was like, oh, man, what did I sign up for? And then when eventually the creature shows up, it's like, okay, it's the girl having this unconventional, kind of relationship with with the reanimated corpse. But I warmed up to. Basically, I warmed up to it's basically Frankenstein as an '80s teen movie, which is kind of interesting.
Uh-huh.
It gets really dark. It takes this really dark and messed up turn though, with like how we kind of like, because again, it starts off like as a corpse, and then we add parts of bodies onto him to kind of make him more human. Which this kind of the science fiction component of that with this take on Frankenstein is really interesting to me. Of course, it's complete BS how we do it. We just like put him in a tanning bed, and that's how he that's how he gets the parts. It's, but still, the love story of the I love the story of like the creature and the monster and like the friend zone. Just kind of like progressively he's there. He's the confidant. He just wants to kind of be a little bit more to her. I think it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
Like the relationship progressively makes him more and more human. Like that's a good sell for like a Frankenstein story, that the human connection that he makes like eventually kind of takes him to humanity. Like there's a lot of good here. I just think it's a little bumpy in getting to kind of our end points here. And I think our ending, honestly, I think our ending is just right. I mean, for this off-kilter Frankenstein story, But it's definitely not for everyone. I see why it's not for everyone. We do a lot of really weird and twisted stuff here, where basically, Lisa Frankenstein's kind of like an axe murderer, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I do wonder if they were supposed to imply like she killed her mother, which they never really said one way or another what happened there.
I mean, that I read that as the implication. I
mean,
know.
that's it. I read the implication, but they don't say it though. It's right. Like anyway. Again, it's definitely not for everyone, but it's it's kind of unique. And it's funny, when I went to the Monster Mania, I was in line to see Skeet Ulrich, and I saw this girl, and she was wearing like the Lisa Frankenstein dress, and I said, "Hey, Lisa Frankenstein?" I said, "Yes." It was like I was like, "Hey, I'm literally watching that movie right now." Really? Yeah.
All right. Okay, I got to go fast with this, man. Okay, Bone Tomahawk. This is the Western I was talking about. It's done by the same director who did Dragged Across Concrete, which we both really liked. This is fantastic, Dragon. This is one of the highlights of the month for me. This movie has a fucking stacked cast. Let's see. You've got Richard Jenkins. You've got my boy Patrick Wilson, an actor that I will proudly proclaim as my boy. You've got Matthew Fox from Lost, who genuinely does some of his best work. Like, genuinely, Matthew Fox is better here than he is in Lost most of the time. You got Kurt Russell. This movie, the thing about this movie is that it's like, it's a Western in a very true sense of the word, but it absolutely devolves into a horror movie in the third act. And Dragon, let me just warn you here. I think you would like the Western components. I think you'd like the cast. This movie genuinely contains the single most disturbing kill I have ever seen in a horror movie. Like, they save it until the last act, but my God, when it gets to the scary stuff, it is absolutely sickening. And I mean, it's not just one moment. I mean, there's one moment I'm thinking of in particular, but just generally speaking, once it gets to that third act, once they get to the caves, I would basically just be like, okay, I can turn it off now. Like, it's worth seeing because I think the actors have a lot of really good chemistry with each other. But especially Richard Jenkins and Kurt Russell, like those two, I think are the reason you would enjoy it. Is they have a really good kind of like, honestly, their dynamic is kind of like a more grounded version of Andy Taylor and Barney Fife. Like, the sheriff and the deputy. Like, Richard Jenkins is kind of like the bumbling sheriff, but he means so well and he wants to do so good, and you just feel for him. Kurt Russell is just kind of like in that kind of like Tommy Lee Jones, No Country for Old Men mold of like, he's seen some shit. He just wants to get this job done. He's, so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. But like I said, once it hits the horror elements, genuinely fucking horrific. So yeah, take that as you will. Okay, next up.
Shaun of the Dead. So, I mean, we already kind of talked about this one in depth. Basically, get a proper taste of some of the Cornetto trilogy stuff from Edgar Wright, and it's
I think you're gonna like Hot Fuzz even more.
I am looking forward to Hot Fuzz at some point. I love the mundane approach to the zombie apocalypse. There's a lot of charm, with the Simon Pegg Nick Frost dynamic. I'm head over heels for it. I'm not. Here's the thing, I'm head over heels for that dynamic. I'm not head over heels for this specific movie. I mean, I liked it. It does. Again, it just makes me want to check out more of the Cornetto trilogy. So Shaun of the Dead was a solid watch.
All right. Okay, next up, Casa Bonita, Mi Amor. This is a documentary about Matt Stone and Trey Parker buying the Dragon. Do you know about Casa Bonita? Do you know the lore behind that?
No.
No, you have no idea? Oh, man.
I have no clue. You're talking
Okay, so Dragon Casa Bonita, I am not exaggerating when I say this in the slightest. You got to look up footage of the place. It is the Disneyland of Mexican restaurants. Like, there is so much shit in this restaurant. And it is like, there's cliff divers, there's caves to explore, there's like full-on like Pirates of the Caribbean style villages with like the nighttime sky and everything. There's puppet shows, there's a shooting gallery, there's a root beer bar. I mean, there's so much stuff. So long story short, South Park did an episode specifically focused on Casa Bonita back in the day, back in like the early 2000s. It became one of the most popular episodes of South Park. Ask anyone who's into South Park. Casa Bonita is usually going to be in the top 10 episodes. After COVID, the actual Mexican restaurant, which is in a suburb of Denver, Colorado, kind of in between Denver and the real South Park, basically got shut down because of COVID. And so this documentary is about Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the South Park guys, of course, buying the restaurant and fixing it up with their own South Park money. Like, it's basically like a vanity project to save a childhood icon. And Dragon, I truly think you would like this movie, even if you're not into South Park, because I think the actual Casa Bonita restaurant is such a fucking cool concept. I think you'd get a kick out of it. But the real reason I think you'd really like this thing is the dynamic between Matt Stone and Trey Parker is very simply Matt Stone is the Roy Disney and Trey Parker is the Walt Disney in this equation. Like, Trey Parker is like the little kid in the grown man's body who has all these ideas, and Matt Stone is the money guy. And that kind of push and pull dynamic is really interesting to watch. So I would genuinely recommend this, Dragon, if you're looking for just kind of like a quick comfort watch. It's a little over an hour long. It's got some good character stuff between Matt Stone and Trey Parker, and I genuinely think you'd get a kick out of the actual Mexican restaurant itself and like how much crazy thematic shit is in there. So yeah. I mean, obviously this this documentary was very literally like pretty much promotional material. So we're not talking like piece by piece or Superman, no aspirations for best documentary here, but still for what it is, it's such a good comfort watch. All right. Next up, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. So, I ever since I saw, the documentary Never Sleep Again, I've been very into, pretty into Nightmare on Elm Street in terms of the making of the horror movies and slasher movies. And it was the 40th anniversary. We wanted something for Memoirs. We wanted something for Haunted Holiday Hijinks. So I kind of took the plunge. I kind of white knuckled through the movie. No, I didn't. No, I'm just saying, like, in the past.
Man, I think I've been pretty impressed with your arc of being more comfortable around horror movies progressively.
Well, that's the thing. So I shouldn't say I white knuckled through this one, but maybe it's I built up a tolerance at this one. But here, I think it really helps. It's kind of the adage of I've kind of exposed myself to the demons in regards to knowing the making of it makes it a lot less scary. Sure. So because of that, like
knowing what a teddy bear of a man Robert Englund is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that helps a great deal.
Right.
I think that's the only reason I could watch this movie, because I know like the making of those movies like the back of my hand now, the back of my knifed hand now.
Sure.
So it's so I decided to watch the original film, and it was again, this was this paved the way for the thoughtful slasher movie. Again, they're like, I don't know, I would say we've probably done slasher movies since that are kind of along the lines of Nightmare on Elm Street. This is like the first time that we, because you had Friday the
This is the
13th.
first. It's the first one that was like truly high concept.
Yeah, I mean, Wes Craven really brought something extra to it, where it was like, basically, I mean, if I were to distill it down, I think the reason Nightmare on Elm Street's kind of cool is that Freddy Krueger is very scarecrow-like in nature.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely,
In
definitely.
Batman terms, he's psychological and uses fear against people to kill them.
Has
So,
Batman ever gone up against Freddy Krueger in the comics? That would be a good
no,
pairing. That would be a good
unfortunately,
pairing. I'm
no.
kind of surprised.
I have seen in the our Chris Notarelli has had Deadpool go up against Freddy Krueger though.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right, no, Batman has not gone up against them. But yeah. Anyway, so long story short, it holds up. It's rather good. It's a classic, and again, it's I mean, I could see myself getting into this a lot more than I could, Friday the 13th, which is basically we're killing teens left and
I
right.
don't like Friday the 13th at all.
See,
Honestly,
here's the thing: when you look at Friday the
I
13th,
love Jason X, but Jason X is kind of its own thing.
now here's the thing: I love Kane Hodder as Jason. The idea of
Come
like
on.
the indestructible zombie killer thing, there's an appeal there, but it'll only take you so far unless you do something like a Jason X. It's like what fun places can
Want
we
to
put?
smoke some pot? Want to have premarital sex?
See, so that's the thing. It's like the locations in which we can put Jason. That's when we got into like, okay, what kind of fun can we have?
Sure, sure.
Before that, it's like, okay, goes to the camp, he kills all the kids, and he's still at the camp, and he's killing all the kids in all sorts of gory, horrible ways. Yada yada yada. Nightmare on Elm Street, he kills like, God, I forget what the exact count is. Let's say essentially four people. Like 3 to 4 people, 5 if you count the mother who we kind of fake out. So I don't know if that even really counts at the end of that movie. But the point being, like, again, it's not like it's not the quantity of villains, it's the quantity of victims, it's the quality of victims.
Sure.
Which I think kind of speaks to Krueger, at least in the original film. When Wes Craven was there, it was kind of Krueger at his peak, and I think that shows in the final product.
All right. Okay. Good deal. All right. Really quick, Milk and Cereal. This is a movie I heard of through Chris Stuckman, actually. And it's it was only made for $800, which is pretty impressive, I gotta say. It's a found footage horror movie, naturally, for that budget. The general conception is that it stars 2 YouTubers who are pranksters, so they're essentially like pranking each other is the gimmick of their YouTube channel, and they like consistently like elevate the pranks. And essentially, Dragon, this movie, one of the pranks goes terribly, terribly wrong and ends up with somebody dead. And the 2 people who are behind the channel, they have to cover it up, and they have to kind of like deal with the guilt of like, it's the classic scenario of like one of them is like really wrapped up in the guilt of it all. The other one is like, no, man, we gotta go to the we can't go to the cops. We gotta stick to our story on it. We gotta stick to our guns. Oh, the father of the guy that we killed is asking around. Well, shit, we gotta kill him too. And that kind of push and pull. There's a twist that one of the pranksters is a serial killer, and his name is Milk, hence Milk and Cereal, which I think is a pretty forced pun, but whatever. I honestly don't think that twist was really necessary. I think it kind of just makes the whole thing a little too heightened. And I also think that the movie plays around with time and structure a little bit too much. Like, essentially, we get the build up to the inciting incident, and then the movie does this thing where it like goes back in time and like shows us like more of the pieces of how, like, essentially it's kind of like kind of an unreliable narrator thing where a lot of the stuff that we see in the first act turns out to be part of the prank, and we see that, and I just didn't think that was necessary. And I think the big flaw of this movie for me is that it's got a very, very dominating musical score, which is like a big no-no for found footage. Like, this is easily one of the found footage movies that has the most distracting scores. But other than that, it's a decent watch, but it's nothing special. It's mostly just impressive that it was done on the budget it was done on. All right, Dragon, my people literally just went to bed, so let's wrap this up quickly. Best and worst, what do you got?
Best, I'm gonna say, as much as I love Woman of the Hour, I'm gonna have to say it's the Superman the Christopher Reeve story.
Okay.
Worst, I mean, I kind of ethically I want to say the Menendez brothers documentary, but I think I probably have to, I don't know, I might have to say Joker Folie à Deux.
How dare you, Dragon?
I think on principle I'm gonna have to say that.
Yeah, worst. I mean, obviously it's going to be Joker 2 for me. I mean, it's not even really a question. And best, I gotta say, man, Piece by Piece really surprised me a lot. Genuinely, like what between this and Smile 2, two of the biggest surprises of the year. But Piece by Piece, I think, is going to be the one that I'm going to be going back to more. I genuinely think that movie did something to me on like a fundamental level with like how I appreciate music, and it's rare to say a movie did that. So yeah. All right, so big thanks to let's see, Little Blue, Kogios, Teddy, and Peregrine in the comments. You guys all rock. It's been a fun month. Oh, and half cartoon, half human also showed up at the beginning. All right, well, folks, we've waxed on long enough, and it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our movie memoirs. He is not my boy. He is not my child. I disown this child.